Okay, we are joined by John Carson. John, welcome to the John Riley Project.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate your patience with getting me here. First of all, I know it's been a while.
You've been great. So, John, you're a candidate for Poway City Council, District 1. And we've been seeing you out there campaigning. You know, just how is the overall campaign going so far for you?
It's actually going very well. Having some really good feedback from people. My friends are all excited for me personally. The people I'm getting out to talk to when I'm going from house to house are getting really good feedback. Mm-hmm. Still the weirdest thing I've ever done in my life, by far. Mm-hmm. Even more weird than going to foreign countries to.
Well, how's it weird? I mean, you're just meeting people, right, and talking about issues.
Yeah, it's weird that when I'm meeting people and I'm talking about issues, and the other things that the further I get into the process, the further I get into the knowledge base of the city and the things I find out and the things I see in the budget, mm-hmm. the things I see with the way people conduct themselves. It's just overall just very weird. Just very weird.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
But, some of the weird things that you're discovering along the way are perhaps maybe those are the reasons that you chose to run. Partly, I guess now it's driving it a little bit further down the road. Those are some of the reasons that are getting me there. Mm-hmm. The original choice to do what I'm doing, to run as a candidate, was just to be a part of Poway going forward, for my son, for my family, and for my friends that are also raising kids in Poway, right? Everybody up to this point, I think, has done an amazing job to get Poway to where we're at today. Would I have done things differently here and there? Of course, everybody would have. Sure, yeah.
Right? But really just moving forward in Poway and wanting to become a part of the city's future and then eventually the city's history would be really why I wanted to do this in the first place.
Nice. Well, I was reading on your website that you talked a lot about your family and about your son. I think he's 9 years old, right? Mm-hmm. And that it was important to you to ensure that he was raised in a city that you felt proud of, a city that embraced all the, the great family-centric culture mm-hmm. and all of that. So I think, being on city council, you can affect that change and make it a positive place for not only your family, but everyone else's. Yeah,
I think a really big part of being that and being an example for my son is not just talking about things, but being a part of the solutions themselves. I kind of take that as a really big thing. Being a former Marine, you can't go to your seniors in the Marine Corps with a problem alone. You mm-hmm. have to have a solution when you bring a problem to them,
right?
Or they'll just ignore any problem that you have, or just kind of brush it off. I don't want to be a problem-centric person. I want to be a solution-centric person. Mm. So even in the way I teach my son Jack, he'll have Dad, my Xbox controller's dead. Well, Jack, you know how to fix that. Put it on the charger.
Right.
Get your other one. You'll be fine.
Right.
But this one's dead. Jack, it doesn't really matter. You have another one.
Mm-hmm.
So the solution skills for young people are what I find severely lacking. I think solution skills for the majority of the population are lacking. But it gets back to, again, I just want to be a part of the solution of not necessarily making things better in Poway, but just the solution going forward.
Right. Yeah. So just to ensure that the city is managed properly, that if problems do arise, that you're there to solve those problems so that we can continue forward smoothly and efficiently and making quality of life good overall.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, that makes sense.
I really do feel that way.
Good. And so a couple nights ago, we had the candidate forum down at Painted Rock Elementary, mm-hmm. Green Valley Association or Civic Association, Poway Chamber. Mm-hmm. And how'd that event go for you?
I think it went really well. Just hearing from the PUSD candidates first, I think was nice. I think Kim, Ginger, and Kevin, mm-hmm. I think they all did a fantastic job.
They did.
Mm-hmm. Just hearing what they had to say. as far as someone that has a student in the Poway Unified School District and specifically at Midland Elementary. You know, I was very interested in what they had to say as a,
Sure.
you know, even as a civilian, you know, just person that lives here.
Yeah.
I thought they were all fantastic. That decision's very hard to make.
I agree. They're
Yeah.
all three of them are very strong
They are.
candidates. There's no weakling in that group.
Yeah.
And I still haven't made up my mind on that race either.
Yeah, I don't know that I have either. I have to talk to some, you know, my teacher friends that, you know, have had my son in school and whatnot, and see how they feel about that.
Yeah.
But you know, I think it was very interesting to see the at-large candidates and the mayor together.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure how I feel about, you know, the questions that were asked. I thought they were kind of all. I think they broad stroked the questions a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned even after the Democrat Forum that, you know, we as candidates didn't really bring up any big ideas,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that lends to the questions a little bit. I don't think those were big idea questions. I honestly feel that way, and I don't think this forum had big idea questions. I think they were kind of broad stroke questions a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, 30,000 foot questions.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were very hard to specify individual points, and especially a 1 minute time frame in response. I thought that was.
Yeah.
I think that's a little lacking. But again, you know, I thought this forum for me was better than the first one. I like sitting like you and I are,
Mm-hmm.
you know, across from each other, talking to people versus being above people. I'm not a fan, and I personally really don't think that I'm above anyone. So sitting on a stage above 50, 60 people is not comfortable for me. Not from a standpoint where I'm nervous or anything. It's just that's just not where I see myself.
Yeah, I understand.
So overall, I think the forum went better. I think my performance specifically was better.
Mm-hmm.
I think I got my points out. I think that the things that I said hopefully resonated. They asked a couple public safety questions, which that's what I do for a living. So,
That's right.
You know, I can certainly add some knowledge base to that and some tacit knowledge to what I have to bring. But you know, overall, I think it went really well.
Yeah, I thought you did very well. You know,
Thank you.
my observation, and it is hard when you get a question that you're not prepared for. You only have 60 seconds, so you have to take a moment to kind of gather yourself, and then have your answer prepared. Some of it has to be almost, you have to anticipate the questions to a degree, but it's hard when you only have 60 seconds. And when you were on stage, you were one of five. You know, the other group was one of seven. You know, so the time gets sliced pretty thin, and it's difficult. It's a difficult environment for a candidate.
Yeah, it certainly does. It reminds me, you know, I think personally the smartest person on the planet right now might be Elon Musk. And he was on the Joe Rogan podcast maybe 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And when Joe asked him a question, he literally gave a pregnant pause of like 30 seconds to every question. If the smartest, what I perceive to be the smartest person going right now,
Right.
can't answer a question immediately, and thinks about his question and thinks about his verbalization as an answer before he even opens his mouth, you know, for 30 seconds, giving us 60 seconds to answer a question is a little,
Yeah.
you know, a little iffy.
It is. The beauty of this podcasting format is you can take as long as we need.
Exactly.
You know, we don't have a commercial break or something like that. But yeah, I think the fact that he took the time to take those pauses shows that how intelligent he really is, because he's not going to just speak off the cuff or
For sure.
speak emotionally. He's going to be well thought out answers.
And he has to take the time, because if he says something out of line, he can have SEC violations.
Yeah.
You know, he
Yeah.
can do all kinds of things, all kinds of damage to himself and his companies.
Right.
So he needs to take the time to be responsible about what he says as well. You know, they were drinking whiskey the entire time for like 3.5 hours.
That's trouble.
And then Joe Rogan does what he does, and he lights a marijuana cigarette and he passes it to him, and he's like, "It's California, right? I'm going to take it." So his stock took like I think a 3% hit the next day.
Yeah,
because,
I saw that.
you know, it's like, come on, man. He's an adult.
Yeah.
He's not going to be unresponsible just because he takes a hit of a
Blunt from Joe Rogan.
Yeah, oh, they were
You know.
clearly having some fun up there.
Yeah.
And, but it certainly created a lot of fun memes, on Facebook.
It did.
But yeah, it's interesting, the reaction, I think, from the conservative, business establishment. They were, taken aback by it all. But a lot of people figured, hey, it's legal. The opinions on marijuana are largely changing across the United States, certainly in California. Other people thought it was cool.
It shows that he's a human.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
doesn't show that he's one of us very often.
Right.
He really doesn't. And for him to just break himself down like that, if you will, to do something very human, very, I don't want to say common folk-ish, but, that's not something people like him do.
Yeah, it was brave to a
Yeah.
degree. Yeah.
Yeah. Like his mother has a PhD, and I can't remember in what, but she's also a model and an actress.
Wow.
From South Africa.
Yeah.
He comes from a very smart family. He's not alone in his intelligence in that family, which is kind of outrageous.
Wow. Well, a lot of that's passed down from the parents, right?
Yeah.
Critical thinking and helping inspire them to pursue certain interests.
For sure.
That's great. Yeah. Well, speaking of that, tell me about your family upbringing and your parents and where you're from.
Okay. I grew up in Indiana until I was 14. My parents kind of were not comfortable with the environment, I guess you could say, in India anymore. There was a lot of density increasing in the specific town we lived in. And my dad found a piece of property actually in the newspaper in Kentucky, South Central Kentucky. He went down the next day and bought it, and then we moved a couple months later.
Wow.
And then from the beginning of 8th grade until I went to boot camp in 2001 for the Marine Corps, I lived in Kentucky. So 1 to 4, born to 14 in Indiana, Kentucky, 8th grade to graduation.
Right.
Then I joined the Marine Corps, and I joined the Marine Corps on April 20th of 2001.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. A couple of months ahead of the big event.
Yeah, so the big event there in 2001, I went to boot camp 14 days later. So I was in Parris Island, South Carolina on September 25th, 2001.
Wow.
Yeah. 18 years old, scared out of my mind,
Oh, I'm sure.
excited for becoming a Marine. I graduated 3 days before Christmas, got to go home for Christmas, and then back to North Carolina for school. Once I graduated school in March of 2002, I moved to Okinawa for 2 years.
Oh.
Okinawa, Japan.
Nice.
So I didn't go to Iraq. I didn't go to, Afghanistan immediately. I didn't have to serve in any combat roles immediately, and just spent nearly 2 years in Okinawa. And it's one of the most wonderful places on the planet. The people are amazing. It's just an awesome place to live.
Now, that's like one of the southern islands in Japan, right?
It is.
So is it kind of tropical, right?
It's very tropical. In the summertime, in the rainy season, you could go outside and it's 98 degrees and 100% humidity.
Oh, my God.
You just take a shower in your barracks room and you go outside and you're drenched in sweat immediately. It's kind of one of those things, but it's fantastic. The
Now,
people there are just amazing.
You hear stories, people are, the locals there are supportive of the Americans, but, there's been a couple of ugly incidents that have happened. And then in some cases, the locals have been anti-U.S. military. Did you sense any of that?
Yes, it was starting to shift, as I was there. A couple Marines did a couple bad things when I was there, and
Yeah.
a couple units as a group did some bad things too.
Right.
But the older people that remember when we came in after World War II, really, they were mainly supportive of us. The younger the population gets at Okinawa, the more, I guess, fatigue there are for the issues, and the more unrest there is with us still being there as far as they're concerned. I think the younger populations don't understand, and don't really need to understand for that matter, what Okinawa has been through with the United States in the past. All they see is the issues now, and then what they foresee to be ongoing issues with Marines, right?
Right.
We're not an easy group to get along with sometimes. We're just not.
Americans or Marines?
Americans or Marines.
Okay.
So, I guess the Marine Corps is just an amplification of being an American.
Yeah, that's true.
So
Yeah.
we do everything just a little bit more violently and a little harder. So, yeah, I guess the young people in Okinawa are having issues. That breaks my heart because Marines
Yeah.
Marines as a whole don't intend to be bad. It's just the things that, we've done, the way we're trained, the way, we work hard, play hard kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets out of control a little bit. And fortunately, I've never had to, or never got out of control like that. So, I had really good leadership in Okinawa and really good leadership throughout my career in the Marine Corps. So I think I did a pretty good job overall of not becoming a stereotypical out of control Marine.
Well, you seem like a very disciplined person.
I think I pride myself on that.
Yeah.
I think that my word is my bond.
Mm-hmm.
I value my integrity.
Mm-hmm.
I do like discipline.
Mm-hmm.
I have gotten a little out of discipline with not exercising and running since I've been out of the Marine Corps. And all my Marine friends will say that was there when I was in the Marines still.
Okay.
But, it's just when I got out of the Marine Corps, I told myself I'm never running again. I'm not doing it. I don't need to run anymore. I'm done with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fun. I've never got runner's high.
Yeah. Well, some people love it. My daughter is a huge runner. I'm not a runner.
Me neither.
No, it just never did it for me.
I can go on a hike all day long with 100 pounds on my back. That's fine.
Yeah.
I will not run ever again. Ever again. If I don't
Unless you're running for city council, right?
Yes, this is the only running that I want to do. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. So what did you do after Okinawa?
So I came back here and I hated it.
San Diego.
Yeah, I was at Camp Pendleton in Las Pulgas, the Fleas, and Camp Pendleton. And the first 3 months, I was miserable. Nothing was. So I went from a tropical island to Chaparral Desert in the middle of Camp Pendleton. It sucked. It was awful. It was terrible. The leadership when I got there was awful. It shortly changed. And then I volunteered to go to cold weather training in Northern California. When I got back to the unit, it was amazing. I started getting out and adventuring more into San Diego and doing stuff with my friends that I'd spent my entire career up to that point with. We kind of all went to Okinawa together and then came back here together and did various other things together since then. But Las Pulgas was awful. Just the middle of Camp Pendleton. And then shortly after I got back from cold weather training, I said that the leadership at the maintenance battalion at Camp Pendleton changed. And then I volunteered to go to Kuwait with a different unit in 2004.
Okay.
So I went to that different unit in 2004, deployed, and we were the first Marines back in Kuwait and Iraq in 2004 after President Bush decided the war was over.
Mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished, and the war was over. So all the Marines were gone when that happened, and we came back in 2004. And me and the party that I was with, we were the first Marines back in that area. There was 12 of us setting up bases and ways to get into Iraq and offloading the maritime prepositioning force ships. We have these ships. I don't know if I can talk about this much, but we have ships all over the world in the water that just have combat gear staged on them, ready to go. So when a conflict breaks out, those ships go to those areas and start unloading.
Yeah, well, that makes sense, really, right?
Yeah. It's a very good logistical choice for us to have pre-staged stuff like that. So we were offloading the MPF ships, and then I came back. That was a very short deployment. And then shortly after that, I met my wife. Excuse me. I started loving San Diego. I'll never live anywhere else other than Okinawa. I mean, if the opportunity came for me to actually live in Okinawa again, I would do that, I think.
Nice.
Eventually, not right now while Jackson's school, but eventually it would be really cool to take my wife and son there to show them just the island and the people and everything, and then come back here. But I don't think I'll ever live anywhere else than San Diego County or Poway or even Heritage Hills where I live now. I think I'll be there for the long haul now.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're establishing roots, right?
Yeah.
Your child goes to Midland, and you've been in town for quite a while. Like, what, about 9 years or so?
We bought our house in 2011 at the bottom of the market, so we got very lucky. Very lucky.
Yeah.
My wife grew up in Rancho Bernardo. She went to RB High. She went to like 4 different elementary schools because RB was building up and in the 80s and 90s. And then she went to, I can't remember what middle school she went to, but she went to RB High and graduated in 2001. And then went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. She's from here, her entire life. It was a little hard for her to move to Poway, being an RB girl.
Oh yeah.
So,
That's like Red
yeah.
Sox and Yankees, you know.
But it's still a fantastic school system, and Midland Elementary is amazing. I love it. I love the teachers there. The leadership there is fantastic. The other families that have their kids there are awesome. So school district is a huge thing for us because Jack does have ADHD and he does have an IEP because he's a semi-special needs student.
Right.
So I don't think we would get the same services and things that we get for Jack without being where we're at today. So
Right.
I mean, even we were at Terra Bonita before Midland, and it was a struggle to get some of the same services that we get at Midland for no struggle.
Right.
So, I think Midland does an amazing job there.
Yeah, well, good. I mean,
Yeah.
it's nice that some schools can offer a different level of service in some cases. That way parents can find their way to the best spot for their child. Generally speaking, I know the school district does a lot for special needs.
They do.
And a lot of it is unseen, because different children have much more serious situations.
For sure.
But it's great that, your family and your child and everyone's doing good at Midland. I think I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, it's I was talking to somebody the other night after the forum, and parents really have to be advocates for their own children.
No doubt.
We can put as much as we can on the teachers, and their burden is very great. But if we don't advocate for our own children and help them and be a part of the teaching process and be a part of the education process, we can't really expect too much of the teachers in the school system if we're not a part of that. So, Amanda and I take a very great deal of pride in helping Jack along and help him to get to the places he's getting throughout his education, even with his limitations in learning, if you will.
Yeah.
I don't think he has any, but doctors say he does. So he just learns a little slower than everybody else because he's all over the place with his ADHD right now. I think he'll mature a little bit and grow into his learning capabilities.
I'm sure he will.
So again, parenting. That's what I tell everybody if they're having trouble with their kids in school. Even if their kids are well behaved in school and they might not be learning at a pace that they think they should, I'm like, well, how much are you involved in your son's education or daughter's education?
Right.
Right. I think that's a huge part of it.
Big deal.
I am not an educator myself. I
Right.
don't ever want that burden.
Right.
But it is huge. The parenting is a big deal. If we want our kids to be successful for us in the future as old people, I think we need to parent them well today.
No question.
So.
A friend of mine often said that it's like a three-legged bar stool, the quality of teaching or the quality of education, because it involves the teacher, the student, and the parent. And you really can't be as effective as you can if one of those isn't really in the game.
For
right?
sure.
And I think if you look at the whole, Poway community in general, and the school district gets a lot of accolades for a lot of the scores and the test results, but a lot of that is due to the fact that I think the parents take such an active role in their child's education, and in many cases provide their children with additional resources that the schools can't provide, whether they're doing it personally or they're funding that sort of thing. And the end result is that collectively, the parents, the child, the teacher, the culture of education is so much greater here.
Yeah, I think that like you said, the families do a lot of adding to the children's education, whether it be themselves or somebody else. But the school district actually does that too a lot. When families that aren't so affluent need things, PUSD is very good about stepping up to the plate.
Nice.
I think they do that very well, and I think I'll praise them for it until Jack's out of school.
Right on. Yeah.
It's fantastic. I have no problems with anything that I've seen personally at PUSD. There's the Dr. Collins stuff and everything else, but that's I feel the same way about that as I feel about the president. I don't
right.
Day to day, President Trump doesn't affect me.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Right. So day to day, Dr. Collins' operations or Dr. Phelps's operations don't really affect me or my son.
Right.
So I'm not really going to not that I don't care. I just don't really feel like I need to get involved in those situations.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
got to pick your battles, right?
Yeah. At the end of the day, I don't have enough time to pick every battle.
Yeah, you don't.
It's
not possible.
So.
Well, the school district, my opinion, has always been that from a educational perspective, the school district is generally very well run. From a business perspective, that's where they have weaknesses.
Yeah, I don't think teachers are business people.
They're not.
Even,
They shouldn't be. That's not their role.
even the people that lead the school districts, they were former teachers.
Yes, that's right. For the most part.
I don't. There's something to be said for that, right? Surely, but at the same time, can those people learn about running a business? I think they're educators. They've always learned. They're teaching.
Yeah,
Of course, they
good
can
point.
learn about running a business. It's the willingness. If I were selecting a new superintendent for a school district, I would be like, so when are you getting your MBA?
Right.
Right. So, not that an MBA is required to run a business. I have an MBA, and I'm never going to own my own business. That's not something I'm interested in. But at the same time, there's some principles and theories in there that the rest of their education life they've not really been taught.
Right, and they haven't experienced it,
Yeah.
And I mean, you're a business person. You have an MBA. Tell me a little bit more about your career. You touched on it at the forum. You know that you're involved with a lot of the communications technology that law enforcement uses.
I work for a Fortune 200 company that provides communication devices for public safety and private communication devices for corporations. We just recently put a radio system in for Facebook and Tesla. We have a radio system at Disney and SeaWorld. We have radio systems at most of the large corporation campuses throughout the country. But primarily we provide public safety devices and infrastructure to fire departments, police departments, county agencies, sheriff departments, state agencies. And on a larger scale, we provide Department of Defense communication systems. We have a Navy system that's worldwide. You can literally key a hand radio here at your house and talk to somebody in Korea on a radio.
Really?
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah. So we
Like
have
a cross-platform kind of thing.
actually no, it's just purely so it can do that, but it's still just radio. It's still just terrestrial radio signal from here to there. So they do a thing. It's not common anymore, but they can do atmospheric skip. So they're skipping off the mesosphere. And I'm not technical, so I may be wrong on that aspect.
Or a meteorologist.
If there's any ham radio guys out there that are going to criticize me, I apologize ahead of time. So we skip radio signals off of the mesosphere, ionosphere, I can't remember which one, and they're received, on the other side of the world within a couple, microseconds, milliseconds.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I sell service and support for my company. And I become a trusted advisor for cops on the ground on how to use their radio effectively, people that set up those radio systems, and give them the things they need after they buy the equipment to make sure their equipment stays in tip-top shape, because it's cheaper to maintain it than it is to buy new.
Oh yeah,
when
sure.
when something breaks. So that's kind of what I touched on at the forum the other night. Efficiencies aren't to be made in personnel. We don't want to make the public safety personnel, fire department and police department, individual employees suffer because we need budget efficiencies. The efficiencies are there to be made in the equipment. We need to be able to go to the negotiating table for their salaries when we need to and effectively, but we don't want to alienate those people and alienate their specific unions by always asking them for another nickel. The efficiencies are there to be made in their cars, maintaining them versus buying new ones, versus if an officer just wants to run his car in the dirt, those things need to be handled differently and specifically. But the efficiencies aren't, like I said, aren't to be made in the people. It's the things that the officers use, the pencils, the papers, the boots, the flak jackets, the rounds, the guns. Do we need AR-15s on motorcycles? I'm not sure we need that in Poway. And the power was out at my house the other day for an SDG&E scheduled outage. So I went to my church to work in the office because I just needed a place to sit in the air conditioner because it was like 100 degrees in my house.
Yeah.
And there's a sheriff pulled somebody out just on the corner of Twin Peaks and Midland there, and he pulled somebody over on Midland Road. He was coming from Twin Peaks into Midland, and I'm out there looking through the window, and this motorcycle cop has an AR-15 on the back of his motorcycle. I'm not sure we need that.
Wow.
I don't like the militarization of police department.
Mm-hmm.
I think that makes people think other things of the police department.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not threatening to me because I'm used to guns like that.
Yeah.
But it's I can imagine how threatening that is to people that aren't used to weapons or don't like weapons.
Right.
And there's a lot of those people here in California.
Well, yeah, California for sure.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a clear delineation between what the military's role is and what police role is.
Specific, I mean, very specific delineation.
Yes.
We shouldn't cross those streams.
But that's what's happening, and it seems like I don't know if it's surplus military gear that's being kind of hand-me-downed.
A lot of times it is, but I guarantee you this AR-15 was bought because somebody thought it was a good deal, and they thought it would be cool for their officers to have these.
Yeah.
You know, a 12-gauge shotgun's way more effective than an AR-15 for a police officer.
Right.
Way more effective.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't advocate home gun ownership because if you're not trained to have a gun, you shouldn't have a gun.
No question. Yeah.
And guns are something, they're not toys. They're tools that should be handled by very effectively trained people.
That's right.
I have different ideas about officers, carrying guns altogether. If you go to the UK and England specifically, their street patrol cops don't carry guns.
They just have billy clubs, right?
They just have billy clubs.
Mm-hmm.
If you mouth off to them, they will use that billy club very quickly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's their deterrent for just common crime.
Yeah.
You can't disrespect them the way police officers in the United States get disrespected.
Right.
You'll just get whacked with a stick. I'm not into that.
Right.
Just not into getting hit with a billy club.
Yeah. Right.
So it's back and forth. They use a lot more SWAT style officers in the UK and stuff when they need heavy artillery, stuff like that. Not artillery itself, but heavier weapons.
Yeah.
But here in the United States, that's we put a lot of burden on the police departments and sheriffs and cops themselves. They have to make split decisions on things that they might not be even trained for. Budgets for them are constrained as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I don't think cops are trained well enough with weapons. I really don't think that at all. I mean, I spent my entire Marine Corps career having a gun on me. In Iraq, I slept with a weapon. You always have a weapons retention mindset when you're in a combat zone. I don't know that cops think the same way. I know how to operate with a weapon 24/7, 365 if I have to. I don't know that I could change that if me or my friends become cops. I have a few Marine friends that have become cops since we've all gotten out, but I think they operate in a different way than civilians becoming cops operate.
Oh yeah, that makes sense because of their training and
for sure,
and their discipline and everything else that comes with it.
And that's a big part of the gentleman that got shot in his backyard in Sacramento. Mm-hmm. I think if those guys were military trained or as well trained with their weapons and situations as Marines specifically are, that I don't think that situation would have happened unless there are other things going on with those officers that would, I think, disqualify them from being cops in the first place. Mm-hmm. Right.
Well, I would imagine that, and this is my hunch here, is that if a police officer is shooting at a person that hasn't already shot at them, then there must be a great deal of fear.
Yeah, and the common Marine doesn't really. We all fear, the end. But I don't know that in a backyard where I would never shoot first in that situation.
Right.
I don't know that many of my Marine friends would shoot first in that situation.
Right.
The rules of engagement always changed in Iraq when we were there, and sometimes we couldn't shoot back unless somebody got hit.
Really?
Wow. Really?
Wow.
Really? I mean, it and from day to day, hour to hour, it changed drastically. It was quite stressful sometimes.
How many years were you in Iraq?
A little under, right at around 2.
Was it multiple deployments?
Multiple deployments, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's I don't have anything bad to say about why we were there, the things we did. I wish we did extra things like improve infrastructure and schools and water for the people. I think that was well within our means to do so. We just didn't. The only way out of poverty for any people of any group anywhere is education, and we didn't do that for those people. So that kind of breaks my heart. So there's that.
Yeah, I mean, we can go down that. It's a deep rabbit hole we can go down.
For sure.
But I appreciate the fact that you've had that experience, and I think about, what you bring to the table here in Poway, as a city council candidate. You've seen parts of the world. I've talked to some other candidates here, and they've spent time in Italy or in Spain, where they've lived abroad, and you've lived abroad. You've traveled to the Middle East. You've interacted with people of all, spectrum, right? The whole spectrum of life. People of different ethnicities and religions and different states in life. That can, I think, help you, not just as a citizen, but maybe it helps you differentiate yourself from some of your competitors in the race.
Yeah, my main competitor, Dave. Hey, Dave, I know you're watching. I know John Ryan said he wanted to say hi to you, so I'm going to go ahead and say hi to you for John and I. He was in the Air Force. I don't know that, I think he did get deployed to Vietnam. I don't know what he did in Vietnam, really. I don't know that we've had that conversation. Peter spent a lot of time in the Navy, but he was at the bottom of the ocean the entire time doing stuff in a sub,
right?
With his buddies there. I don't think, President Reagan said there's no greater thing than, actually, people spend their entire lives wondering if they've made a difference. Marines don't have that problem. It is what
That's
President
true.
Reagan said.
Yeah.
I've led Marines in combat, and I know for the rest of my life that I will have been successful doing that. Having my son and my wife, my family, has changed my picture on being a success a little bit. That just adds to my success. But I don't ever have to think of what my life would have been without success, because I was a Marine and I led Marines in combat. So I think, that does make me a little bit different than the other guys in the race.
Yeah.
I think it's made me a little bit more patient. It makes my judgment a little bit better, I believe. Not that I think I'm better than them. I think that all four of us running for District 1 love Poway. We love different parts of it. But I really do think that, my judgment, my integrity, and my ability to interpret what I think from listening to the people of Poway is better than theirs. I don't think I'm running against Peter and John. I really don't. And I don't think John or Peter think they're running against me either.
I agree. I think everyone's thinking they have to unseat the incumbent.
We do, and it's very difficult,
It is. It's a hard job.
Do I think Dave's done a bad job? I really don't think any of our current council have done a bad job. Again, I think that their decisions in certain areas could have been different, could have been a little bit better, but everybody thinks that they can do something better. I just want to be a part of it and actually be a part of making it better. I'm not just going to be a Monday morning quarterback saying, this is what I would have done, right? I want to be a part of doing it differently. I think that's another difference in me than some of the other people running for any office in Poway. I'm always going to be a part of the solution and never just complain. In the paper in the Chieftain this last time, it said, something about outstanding critics or often critics. I've never really got up and criticized the council at council meetings except for once after Poway days when I didn't see any of those guys at any of the events. I think if we're going to grow community events here in Poway organically, I think that the people look for those kind of individuals to be at those events.
Yeah.
And if they see them there, if they see them in the paper there, online there, on the Poway website there, on Facebook there, Twitter there, next door, any of these arenas, to see people in images at community events, I think that's what grows events.
No
honestly.
question. Yeah, it does.
So when the people are like, well, there's nobody here. Well, there's 1,500 people at the beer fest, but none of the city council was there. The mayor wasn't there. There was a lot of their supporters there because I know those people. But, you know, the people that put on those events try very, very hard, and they do a damn good job doing it. And to just be eschewed by the leadership is a little, not disrespectful, but it's borderline disrespectful.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
So, again, I'm not going to criticize anybody because I think we've gotten to Poway where it is today with that leadership. And they haven't done a bad job. Poway's a fantastic place to live. People stay in their homes in Poway 89% of the time.
Yeah, they do.
That's, you know, from census to census, 89% of the people surveyed still lived in their homes, their same homes.
From 10 years apart, right?
From 10 years apart.
Wow. I didn't know that stat. That's a good one.
That's part of the reason that our revenue as a city is static.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the tax base isn't increasing.
That's
if
right.
people move out of their homes, their tax rate is increased or decreased based upon the value of said home. And, you know, revenue comes from that. And that's a large part of our revenue. You know, we get 1 penny from our sales tax.
Right.
1 penny of every 7% sales tax we have. 1 penny from the state comes back to us.
Right.
Of each, you know, dollar.
That's right.
That's not a lot.
No.
So our tax base really comes from revenue from property taxes.
Primarily, yeah, that's right. And you know, the city talks about this a lot, where they're running out of land to develop. And if you're thinking strictly in terms of revenue to the city, and if that's your kind of focus, that you worry about that, right? Because you know, you need to generate more revenue to incur the extra costs. And they talked a little bit about that in the forum, you know, and the increasing pension costs, and they're trying to figure out ways to manage it. And it does get tricky.
It does.
And you have to find the efficiencies, like you talked about, you know, to be able to make the dollar stretch.
I think there are many efficiencies in our current budget. You know, I would never upset the apple cart and go away from, you know, the being radical and change, right? So there's the 48 Laws of Power book. You know, you should appear to be an agent for change, but don't change so much to appear to be a radical. Like, you should always want change, even if, you know, that's at your own expense, right? That's something we should all want for all the time, because change is good, and change purifies things, if you will, right? When the Native Americans owned this land, they used to set it all on fire because it fertilized the land and it brought back better crops in the years to follow that. So change is not a bad thing.
Right. That's how human progress, right?
Yeah. And, you know, like from the company I work for, we built the first cell phone ever.
Really?
The first cell phone call was made in 1973. It was a 2.5-pound horseshoe-looking phone that one of our executives and engineers called our main competitor, Bell Labs, he was walking around downtown Chicago, the engineer from my company. I'm still not going to say the name.
Okay.
I don't want to do that.
Okay.
But he was walking around downtown Chicago and calling New York City at Bell Labs, and the guy couldn't believe it. The guy at Bell Labs couldn't believe and doesn't remember this conversation on purpose, I think. But the first cell phone call was made in 1973, and then we actually made the first cell phone with iTunes on it. The company I work for did. And then a year later, Steve Jobs comes out with a touchscreen phone, and we didn't really hold him accountable for taking the idea away from us. So that's kind of why the company I work for is not well known in the cell phone business anymore, because Steve Jobs kind of took our lunch.
Yeah, well, he was an innovator, and in some cases he
was ruthless.
He was ruthless. Yeah.
At the time, we had a CEO that was from HP before, and he kind of, for lack of a better term, he kind of laid down for him. You know, it was kind of, not that he cowered to him, you know, like a scared dog or whatever, but he had no fight back. And I just, you know, again, to my integrity and my word, I'm always going to fight for what I believe in.
As you should, yeah.
And, you know, as a man, if I give you my word, I'm going to fight for that, right? I always want to deliver for the things that I promise.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I might not always deliver exactly the things that I promise, but I'm going to sure do my damnedest to try.
Yeah, I don't know how to respond to that, but I mean, when you talk to political candidates, right?
Yeah.
You hear a lot of cliches, campaign promises.
Yeah.
What you just said, I believe you.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt that.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
Wow.
So not to change the subject, but I cry when I hear the national anthem still, John.
you do.
It means that much to me. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, I'll get emotional talking about that, but that's how much the United States means to me and why I served it.
Right. I understand. I respect that. Wow.
Sorry.
No,
I
no.
just drug this conversation down.
No, this is good. this is moving, and
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of opinions on what makes America great, and I always think about the preamble to the Declaration of Independence. That's what hits me, and it's about inalienable rights of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness
For everybody.
and for everybody.
For everybody.
And government, their role is securing those rights, and something I strongly believe in that. And a lot of this is really more on the national scope, right? I mean, you kind of wonder how do those basic principles apply on a local level, and
It's just that. Those are basic principles that we can apply at the local level, right? The senior center is a great example. When I can't remember if her name's Leslie or Lindsay, but the director of the senior center.
yeah,
She had a forum on Tuesday night before the city council meeting. She had tears in her voice talking about how much she loved those people and loved working at the senior center.
nice.
It's people like that make Poway great.
Oh, no,
It's people
no
like
doubt.
that across the country that
No
make
question.
the nation great.
Yeah.
It's those same inalienable rights that are talked about in that preamble that are easily applicable to local
Yes.
situations.
Yeah,
It's not hard. You just have to love everybody,
Right.
and want to be a part of everybody.
that's right.
Like I put my pants on the same way you do.
Okay.
No, I can't think of anybody that stands them up, starched up, and just jumps in them from a table or whatever. I don't know that anybody does that. Mayor Voss puts his pants on the same way I do.
Yes,
he just
he
adds
does.
a cowboy hat at the end.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's just I'm just a guy. I'm just a Marine.
Right.
I might do things a little differently. I might speak a little bit differently when I get hot. It's just that doesn't mean I care any less or I care any more. That's just who I am. It's a part of the way I do things. That's the way I'm wired now.
Well, yeah.
Because of my training, because
Yeah.
of the way the Marine Corps raised me.
Yeah.
My dad was a Marine, and his dad was a Marine.
Oh, wow. I didn't know
his
that.
dad was a Marine. I'm a fifth generation Marine, so yeah, that's just the way the Carson family on our side does things.
It's just funny because Kaylin Frank was here yesterday, and we did a podcast, and she comes from a family that have all been in public service, right? Deputies and city council people, and she's following that. You're a fifth generation Marine. Kaylin was talking about some of the work that they're doing at the county level where there's multi-generational people that are in gangs. But the point, I guess, of all of it is that your parents are just so influential, and how you're being raised. They help establish those values, those morals, and the direction you take in life. And where those boundaries are as you go forward.
Yeah, with my parents, it wasn't so much that those things were instilled in me. It was just the environment, the discipline, it wasn't specifically about being a Marine. Like my dad was way out of the Marine Corps before I was born. He didn't really talk about being a Marine very much. He didn't have a lot of stuff around the house as far as being an oorah, gung-ho Marine or whatever.
Right.
It's just not who my dad was. My dad was kind of a beatnik hippie, and he was a radio station DJ, after he got out of the Marine Corps, and, listened to classic rock and roll at the time in the 70s.
It's now classic rock, right?
It's my favorite music.
Yeah.
But, he and my mother didn't want me to join the Marines at all. Like they did not want me to be a Marine. They wanted me to be whatever it was there. Like I could do anything I wanted to at home in Kentucky,
and just live there, have 1,000 kids, do whatever there, and they'd be happy with that. I don't want to say I was a big fish in a small pond living in a small town in Kentucky, but that's kind of what it ended up being. I still love all of my friends back there. You know, I'm very close with a friend of mine, Bob, that lives in Tennessee. We joined the Marine Corps together. He got out and went back in when I was getting out. So I still love visiting there. I still love the small town atmosphere. But that we have that here in Poway.
Yeah, we do.
You know, the barbecue there is way better than anything in California, unfortunately.
Well, the bourbon too, maybe, huh?
Yes. That's kind of my it's kind of my thing to do now.
Okay.
A glass of whiskey is the best thing you could enjoy at the end of a day.
Oh yeah.
You know, some people are wine people. You know, especially here in California, we have fantastic wine, but just can't get past a nice small batch of bourbon from Bourbon County, Kentucky, and you know the redneck did his damnedest to make that whiskey the best he could do.
Oh, no question.
And I say redneck because most of those guys are just backwoods. You know, they know the way that they want to do it. They know where the water comes from. They know where the grain comes from. They don't want to do it any different. They don't want the government to get involved. You know, they just want to do what they do and just leave everything else to the people that drink it.
They're artists.
Yeah, they are. And you know, the term artisan's coming up more and more with, you know, America becoming a building nation again. We're coming back to building, right? It started in Detroit with their revitalization, I think, a little bit. And I'm a huge fan of Jack White, the musician.
Oh yeah, from the White Stripes.
Yeah. And the Raconteurs and Jack White.
And, Raconteurs,
and all the other stuff that he makes gold. But he bought a record pressing plant in Detroit, and he has his own record label, and they press vinyl records in Detroit. And you know, the areas he's really put a lot of money into Detroit are becoming those artisan builders again.
Nice.
There's a bicycle shop in Detroit that makes, you know, single speed, you know, what do they call those?
Fixies, right?
Fixies, yeah. Single speed fixies, and these bikes are like $10,000 a piece.
Whoa.
You know, I can't see paying that much for a bicycle ever. But some people do. You know, it's a handcrafted, well built sewing machine of a bicycle.
Yeah.
You know, it's very precise. You know, the records. That's not an easy thing to do, is to press a piece of plastic in the music. You know, that went by the wayside because it was hard and expensive.
Yeah.
You know, the cars that are built in Detroit are still fantastic.
Yeah.
They've, you know, in the 90s and early 2000s, they weren't great, but they're coming back again.
Yeah, they are.
You know, the fighting spirit of America is alive and well.
Yeah.
We're making more than we have in, you know, 50 years. And I think it encourages me. I wasn't around 50 years ago, but it encourages me to see us become an industrial powerhouse again, because I think that's where we're at our best.
Yeah, you know, it is a great topic to talk about, you know, especially in light of, you know, the things that, you know, President Trump is doing with trade and, you know, trade deficits, and this all comes out. But what was largely hidden from is that today America produces dramatically more than it did 40 or 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And it does it with less people because of the efficiencies, because of the technologies that allowed them to be far more productive. But the perception is that because there's been so much growth in manufacturing in Asia, that we have become second rate. But I still think we're the number 2 country in terms of manufacturing GDP, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. We are still there. You know, Asia may manufacture as much as they do, and they may be the leaders of it. But that doesn't mean it comes to the United States. You have the BRIC nations, you know, Brazil, Russia, India, and China. That there's a lot of people in those countries.
Oh, yeah.
And they don't manufacture like we do.
No, they don't.
They don't have the entrepreneurialism that we do.
That's right.
They don't have the skilled labor that we do.
That's right.
And they don't have the stability that we do.
Yep.
I don't know that I would want to operate a business in any of those countries because of their instability. Instability, I guess you will. Especially in a country like Brazil. You know, like they just had the Olympics there.
Yeah, in Rio.
If I had a kid in the Olympics, I don't know that I would have wanted them to go there because of how unsafe that country is.
Yeah.
You know, and that affects businesses.
Well,
Right.
a friend of ours is travels for business, and she works for Oracle, and so she does training, for software applications. And she was in Sao Paulo, and she was given very clear instructions, like at the hotel. It says you can walk on this street, but do not walk on the street next door because it's extremely dangerous.
And that affects business,
No doubt about it.
right? Like, even Oracle, that affects them.
Yes, it does.
Like, so if something happens to her, Oracle's on the hook to take care of that.
That's right.
And if I were the CEO of Oracle, I wouldn't want to deal with that.
Right.
So why?
Right.
Was it Larry Ellison?
Yeah. Yeah.
He doesn't have to do that.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to conduct business in that country. It's beneficial that they do, but he doesn't have to,
That's right.
right? They can just turn their back on that and move somewhere else, do something else,
Yeah.
right? That's the economics that is the part of people, or people in economics, right? That's kind of what I really, in my education and graduate degree, I studied a lot in economics, and I don't think that economics are numbers. Even in my master's thesis, I wrote about why people make the decisions they make, and I had 0 numbers besides page numbers in my thesis, right?
Yeah. It's a lot of psychology.
It's just people.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
people, and if I get elected in November, I know people better than my competitors and better than about anybody else that I know. It's just it's an intelligence that's different than numbers, than reading, than everything else. Poker players are really good at reading people.
Yes, they are.
I'm not a great poker player just because I get bored really easy, but
Right.
being able to tell what body language means and from different people, because different cultures have different kinds of body language, different people, different regions of the United States have different body languages, right? People in New York City will get way closer to you than they will here in California.
Yeah.
Right.
Like they're close talkers,
Yeah,
right?
their bubble is way smaller than Californians, and
Right.
and people in Kentucky, where I grew up, later in my school, in high school and whatnot. If you get that close to a man talking, they're going to hit you. That's just that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You hug everybody still,
Yeah.
but then you back away.
Well, there's like the neutral zone, right?
Yeah,
It's like a Star
exactly.
Trek thing, right?
Yeah. The Boy Scouts were talking about the Cub Scouts. We were doing the kids were starting to whittle with knives,
Oh, nice.
and
Yeah.
one of the little boys had an older brother in Cubs and Boy Scouts, and his mom, and he goes, blood circle, blood. I'm like, that sounds awful. Why would you say that? But his mom was like, oh yeah, that's what they call it when, like, if you hold your knife out and you go in a circle around you, if there's nobody in your circle, there's not going to be any blood. But if anybody gets in your circle, there could be blood because you can reach them with your knife.
So that's the bubble.
Yeah, I'm like, oh,
That's
an awful way to describe
yeah,
that.
it is an awful way to describe it, but I understand, especially
Yeah.
like little Cub Scouts,
Yeah, I'm like, oh, that's terrible. Don't no. And then even then, like, people, like, I was just letting Jack just do his thing, and I'm like, if he cuts himself, he's only gonna do it once. It's just stitches.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's another thing parents don't let their kids do is fail.
That's how you learn.
Failure is a big part of learning,
No question.
right?
Yeah.
And even as adults, like, nobody wants anybody to fail. And like I said at the forum, I don't think any of the candidates, for Poway Unified School District or the city, nobody wants Poway to fail on any level.
Of course not.
And I think everybody there is passionate about that, and everybody has, specific ideas in mind for Poway. Nobody has an idea to let Poway fail. Nobody. From Kalen, that's a fairly recent resident, to the longest tenured person that's lived in Poway. Nobody wants.
No, of course
nobody
not.
wants that.
Of course not.
Nobody wants anything to fail in the United States. We want to bring back the image that we're the greatest nation in the country or in
Right.
the world. We might not be right now, but we can get there again. Poway might not be the greatest city in San Diego County or the state. We were, I think at one specific time, we can get there again. I think we have the business park to have the technology innovation. I think the revitalization of Poway Road is going to be fantastic for our image. We are a great place to raise a family. We were in that list that Mayor Voss referenced. But on that same list, we're very low in fun.
Yeah,
right?
we are. Yeah, I noticed that.
We're very low in fun.
Yeah.
Not that Poway's not a fun place to live if you have a specific idea of what
Yeah.
fun is, like
Yeah.
hiking or doing outdoor activities like
Yeah.
that. But I think I don't. If you talk to my friends that know me very well, I don't take life that seriously. It's just not. Life's not worth doing if you're not having fun.
Yeah,
it's
no
just,
question.
It's just really not.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just
yeah.
not doing that. Not that I think that life's not worth doing at all.
Yeah.
For some people, no matter what, if you're not having fun or having fun, but it's so much better when you are having fun,
Yeah, of course.
right?
Yeah.
And I will never sit from a council seat and lecture anybody about coming to a meeting or not coming to a meeting, about their decisions or not decisions. I just won't do it, because at the end of the day, people have their own reasons for doing things. They might not have reasons for doing this, but this. But I will, from those seats, if I get elected, try to have as much fun as I can,
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
help the city have as much fun as we can.
Yeah.
We have the Tony Gwynn 5.5K, which I think is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably as big a baseball fan as I am, and Tony Gwynn's spot to hit the baseball was at the 5.5 hole.
Right on. Yeah.
Tony Gwynn is probably the best Powegian that's ever lived.
Mm.
Sorry, Tori. I know your family started Poway, and Dr. Lee was your great grandfather.
Yeah.
This, that, and the other thing. I think that that's fantastic. But his smile
Oh yeah.
and what he brought to our city,
Oh yeah.
and the things he did for us, and just the image alone, without doing anything else, was fantastic. And what a fantastic human being him and his family are.
No doubt. No question.
But like we have the race there, the running race with is it Mike Hesper? No, it's who makes the Tony Gwynn beer?
The 394?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Man, that's gonna bother me. Paul, I'm sorry. I know you're gonna yell at me for not remembering. But they partner with the Gwynn Foundation on putting on that run, and it was brought from Miramar area back to Poway because that's where they're from.
Nice.
And, I think that we do the mud run, we do, the Easter egg hunt, we do all these other events in Poway, and those are fun events. We do the rodeo, for Pete's sake.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic fun event.
Yeah, that is.
There were so many people there on Saturday night when I was there.
That's a
volunteering.
huge deal.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
I've never been to it before.
Yeah.
Just because, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of large crowds, so, hey, hey. So, I kind of avoided it until recently, but there is a lot of fun to have in Poway if you're, again, of a specific mindset, outdoor type activities and rodeo and whatnot. But, excuse me, sorry. We can add to the things here in Poway because we have the business park, because we have, the stadium at Poway High. We have the concert facility next door at the Performing Arts Center. We can have things here in Poway. We just have to have the people that are willing to do the work to allow those things to happen.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it always comes down to.
Like the city council doesn't have to do the work themselves to make the things happen. They just have to do the work to allow those things to happen.
Right.
That's all it is. And I'm not sure that they're unwilling to do that now, but I want to be a part of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I think we can have fun. I think we can put on, festivals for music here in Poway. I think we have the land to do it.
Mm-hmm.
We could do it at Lake Poway and put on a fantastic music festival for a weekend and not have to do Kabu and Del Mar and those things. Cal Jam up in Riverside. We could do that here in Poway.
Well, Poway actually has a lot of great musical roots
We
here.
do.
Blink 182 is from Poway.
So those guys actually went to the church I go to at Living Way.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. So Tom DeLong and the DeLong family actually went to Living Way Church for a period of time.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you got Blink 182 that's from here. Have you ever heard of Unwritten Law?
I have.
Yeah, so they're from Poway. I think they have a song called Crazy Poway Kids, if I remember. And then Louis XIV was a band that came out of Poway, and Brian Karsig is the guy's name, and his mother Mary Karsig. You see her around town, Poway and RB. So there's a lot of you have a fundamental basis for having a music festival here because Poway, not only a launching pad for athletes, it's a launching pad for musicians.
Yeah, I mean, even Mayor Voss is a a Grammy award-winning
Yes, he is.
musician.
You can't leave him out.
Right?
And his daughter, have you been following what his daughter Anna has been doing?
She's pretty good. I don't really like country music anymore because I think Kenny Chesney ruined country music.
Yeah.
But, there's guys like Sturgill Simpson and, Brian Isbell, Jason Isbell, rather.
Yeah.
And some other guys bringing country music back to where I think it should be. But, again, just my opinion.
Well, you're a Kentucky guy, so you can appreciate that.
I have to like the Kentucky guys, and Sturgill's from Kentucky.
Yeah.
So, I like rock and roll music. That's what attracts me to music. It makes me happy. It relaxes me.
Yeah.
Even heavy metal relaxes me. It's just that's the way I'm built.
I hear you.
I'm not. I'm not a hip hop guy that much. I can listen to it. I can appreciate the lyrics that they use in their word usage and word play.
Yeah.
I think that's fantastic.
I agree.
The way that their minds work is different than the way my brain works.
Yeah.
Especially a guy like Eminem or Jay-Z or Tupac or Biggie. The way that they form thoughts in their bars is completely different than the way I would think about using those same words.
Right.
The mumble rap is kind of lazy, but again, I rock and roll really makes me happy.
What are some of your favorite artists?
Specifically classic rock, and I'm a huge fan of Led Zeppelin, The Doors, The Who.
So that's the real deal classic rock right there.
Yeah. I just love music. Like, it's universal. Math and music are the two universal languages I think that can translate.
That's right.
No matter what language you speak, where you're from, what religion you are. The music I listen to may not be attractive to everybody, because I like a little heavier version of rock and roll nowadays. In my where I'm at currently, but I think guys like Gary Clark Jr. making blues music.
Oh, that's nice.
It's he's him, and the way John Mayer plays the guitar, Keith Urban.
I get blown away when you see Mayer playing guitars. You have no idea that he's that talented as a guitarist.
Yeah, and Nicole Kidman's husband, Keith Urban.
Yeah,
he's probably better than John Mayer.
Really?
Yeah, and like I mentioned, Gary Clark Jr. He's a different player than both of those guys, and he's from Austin, Texas, the same as Stevie Ray Vaughan, another huge person that I just I hear him play the guitar, and it's like,
whoa,
is this guy an alien?
Yeah, he's unbelievable.
And Gary Clark Jr. is on that level.
Yeah,
and hear the old guys, Eric Clapton, talk about those guys. It's like, he's the real deal. If Eric Clapton's saying he's good, he's the real deal.
Yeah.
And Eric Clapton lived in Escondido with J.J. Cale for a couple of years.
Yeah, there was like an album or a song.
The Road to Escondido.
That's the one. Yeah. Because I remember I mentioned Escondido's name.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have, like you said, that we have the basis for something large in Poway like that. I wouldn't want it to turn into Kabu. I would want it to be, something small, intimate, and fun. And not burdensome. I don't want to hurt the environment anywhere. I don't want to impact the residents. If it's a little loud here and there, we can get around that. That's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
Especially for a day or two. That's not that great of an inconvenience. And most people, if have the means to just go on vacation, if that's the
case. They can plan around it.
Yeah. So, Poway has the capability of being fun, and I think we should be fun for the sake of being fun.
Yeah. Oh, no question. Yeah.
It's the right thing to do for everybody. We pay a lot of property tax here in Poway, in the state, because of the value of our home.
Yes.
Not specifically because property taxes are high or anything. I think it's our tax situation is fantastic. 1% or $10,000, whichever's higher.
Yeah.
That's the greatest thing that California has to offer as far as tax breaks go, right? But it's just the right thing to do, John. Having fun.
Yeah.
Like everything. It starts with our kids and building, ball fields and parks for them. Like, really, that's where it should start. The adults are another thing altogether. But if we don't start taking care of the kids more. We already do a good job.
Yeah.
But more.
Yeah.
Just because we should. If we don't start doing that, that's, the kids are going to get out of high school, they're going to go to college and never come back. Right? And that's happening a lot. And
It is.
And it's kind of unfortunate. There's the cost of homes. That's one of it, right? But I don't see that as a problem. I really don't. And a lot of people will say that the cost of living in Poway is outrageous and the home prices are, why people can't move to Poway. But at the very same time, we have kids that go to school at Stanford, at Harvard, all over the country to great schools. Like your daughter is at Cal Poly and your son's at
New Mexico.
New Mexico. Those are fantastic schools.
Yeah.
Right? If they have the ability to get a good job in San Diego and Poway's fun to live in, I have no doubt in my mind that they would want to move back to Poway because they grew up here.
Yeah.
And people want to live where they grew up.
Oh, a lot of people do.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm a different case, but my wife, she grew up in Rancho Bernardo.
Yeah.
She would probably have rather chosen to live in Rancho Bernardo because that's where she was more comfortable in. But she has no problem living in Poway. It's the same. It's the same good streets, the same public safety, the same county, the same school system specifically.
Yeah. The same culture.
The very, very much the same culture.
Yeah.
People want to live where they grew up, whether they go to college and come back, go to the military and come back or not. People would rather live where they're comfortable living versus something new.
There were a lot of people that I've met here in town that grew up here that went to
Yeah.
high school, like, Tony Russo and
Yeah.
Tory Powers. And,
Yeah.
there are a lot of people that have chosen to stay. There's people that have gone away to college and they come back. But yeah, it is hard, but there are things that we can do to attract them, right?
Yeah. All of my friends from church, like all the people that are around my age that I'm, in our little group that have young families, that they all have lived in Poway their entire lives.
Wow.
Went at school here locally, whether it be Bible college or regular college, and then got jobs here, and all still live here. I don't want to go back to the parenting thing, but it does go back to that,
Yeah,
right?
it does.
Work ethic, school, and drive to succeed at a career. Without those things, you're not going to be able to afford a house in Poway, much less California.
Right.
Right. So it's, again, back to parenting, back to the school district, and the work ethic. I think Poway overall gives the essence of a great work ethic for everybody that lives in Poway. It's a hardworking community. We volunteer in large numbers. We want to serve in large numbers. You even see it by the large number of candidates for public office here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So Poway can be fun, and we can do the things to make Poway great for the kids living here now and eventually when they become, adults and want to raise families here. They just have to be able to have the means to come back.
Right.
And again, I don't think it's necessarily a problem with housing prices because I bought my house in 2011 at the bottom of the market. There are instances where Poway is much more affordable than other times. And 2011 was a fantastic time for affordability.
No doubt.
You just have to be able to take advantage of it when it strike when the iron's hot. So I'm rambling a little bit, but Poway it's everything for everybody that wants to live here. I really think it is. Bottom line, I don't think it's not burdensome to live here. I don't live paycheck to paycheck because I live here. I don't make a great deal of money. My company pays me well, but if you want to live here, you can live here. And that's the thing. Some of our older friends have moved to Texas or Arizona or whatever for tax breaks, and I understand that, right? If you're on a limited income and a fixed income, those tax breaks are much better for you.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'll ever do that because Poway is fantastic. I want to live here. I don't want the heat of Texas. I don't want the heat of Arizona.
The grass isn't always greener.
I don't want snow.
No. Yeah.
I grew up in that stuff, and I don't ever want. If I never saw snow again, I'd be fine.
Right.
But at the other end of that, I don't go to the ocean that much either. We go a couple times a month.
Yeah.
Because it's fun. It really is.
Yeah.
It's enjoyable. but I don't have to have the ocean. But that's why I live in Poway.
Right.
I don't have to deal with tourists.
Right. Right.
So, and zonies.
Yeah. And all that, beach traffic and everything
Yeah.
else. But you can go visit when you want to.
Yeah. So the people that want to live in Poway really is everything to everybody.
Yeah.
Not everybody wants to live in Poway.
No,
Really? I mean,
no.
they don't.
No,
they
they
like PB. They like North Park. They like downtown. I don't know if anybody like Oceanside.
Oceanside's coming back. You know,
It is.
especially near the water. You know,
Yeah.
the beachfront's a huge revitalization going
Because
on.
of the development there.
Right.
People, that's a scary word to a lot of people. It really is.
Oh yeah, it is because it's changed. Oh my
Development's
gosh.
a bad word. And it might as well be a 4-letter word. But it's really not that bad. We talk about the Poway Road Corridor Specific Plan. I think the density in that plan is not great.
Mm-hmm.
I think the offsets from the sidewalk are not great. But again, that thing is just a plan. It's not a rule. It's a guide.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I want to be a part of making the right decisions for developments according to that plan. I'm not for or against that plan because it is just a guide.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the lines on the road. You don't always have to drive within the lines on the road. If there's something in your way, you can get around
That's right.
that and drive over a line.
Mm-hmm.
Those lines are the rule. But again, they're still just a guide for safety. And I think this Poway Road Specific Corridor Plan is a guide for safety
Mm-hmm.
to make sure we don't get off track too much. I do have a problem with the density of it. I do have a problem with the offsets of the sidewalks. The parking, is another issue. I don't like driving in Little Italy trying to find a spot to park
Right.
because it's awful.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to be Poway.
Mm-hmm.
I live 200 steps off Poway Road. If people can't find parking at those new developments, they're going to park on my street.
So you're roughly speaking kind of like by Terrascan and Poway Road, kind of
I'm
north of that?
I'm one road east of Terrascan on Nakoni Drive.
Okay. So kind of, is that sort of behind, like there's a car wash, right?
Yeah,
So is
I'm
it
behind there.
right behind that area?
Yeah, I'm basically behind the Poway Sushi Lounge in that shopping center.
Okay. So that's a little further west than
Yeah.
the car wash.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I get a sense of that.
Yeah. So if you take Terrascan and turn right
Yeah.
on Juanista,
Yeah.
and then the very next left on Nakoni is where I live.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice. I've driven back there. It's a nice
Yeah.
community.
Yeah, it's not one of the original communities in Poway, but I think my house was built in '60.
Okay.
It's still pretty old,
Mm-hmm.
and it's perfect for my wife, my son, and I.
Uh-huh.
I tell people back home in Kentucky that I paid $400,000 for a 1,400 square foot house, and they're amazed. It's like, why would you do that? Because it's worth $700,000 now.
Right. Right. Right.
That's why I did it.
Yeah.
You
Those numbers are probably mind blowing to your friends in Kentucky.
Yeah, in Kentucky, for what you could buy my house for now is you could buy, I don't know, 4,000 square foot house with 200 acres.
And still have a lot of cash left over, probably.
Yeah, probably. If you buy in the right area, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like my brother bought a bunch of land, where he lives in southern Kentucky, down near the Tennessee border for like $50 an acre.
Wow.
But it's not usable. It's up and down hills and creeks running through it, and it's It's not mountainous, but it's like
You can't develop on it.
no. You can basically hunt on it, and that's about it.
Right.
Yeah, that's about it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not worth much else. You couldn't even really farm his land. It's gorges and hollers, what we call back home, and where a creek runs through the bottom of it. And it's just Kentucky. It's just South Central Kentucky where we grew up. It's hard to describe. It's hilly. It's lowlands in the creek areas, and we have some high hills here and there. But that's just where I grew up in Kentucky. It's just a different kind of place.
Yeah, I've never been to Kentucky. That's one of the few states I haven't visited. A friend of mine grew up in Cincinnati, and he would go across, I guess that's the Ohio River, right, into Kentucky. And he was telling me how there were areas where his friends had property, but they had to go through just tremendous amounts of, I think he described them as thickets. It's just like this really dense kind of trees and shrubs. And then he eventually got out to an open area where his friend's home used to be.
Yeah.
But the point, I guess, is what I heard from that is that it's very rural in some parts.
It still is. It still is in the majority of the state, honestly. The cities are the cities, and they don't really burst out of those seams very much. There's I want to say 1.5 million people in Kentucky total.
Oh, wow.
We have how many here in San Diego County alone? 3?
3 million, yeah.
So
and growing.
There's twice as many people here in San Diego as there are that entire state.
So how do you say the name? Is it Louisville? Louisville.
Yeah.
So that's you got to get used to that one.
And my accent is different, right? So when I talk to people back home, it comes out and I say lass and brat and nass and ass, and I talk like that occasionally and talk to people. It's more comfortable and what have you.
Yeah.
But in the Marine Corps, if you're from the South and you're like me, people just think of you a certain way.
Yeah.
And I just you're either dumb or racist, and I didn't want to be either categorized as either one of those things.
Yeah.
So I speak the way I speak on purpose. I have an accent, and I choose to change it day to day. Depending, if I go home, I speak like that. I speak
you probably settle back into it.
Yeah,
right?
with a more Southern accent.
Yeah.
If I'm in rural Northern California, up in the middle of nowhere, I talk a little bit more loose. Like little bit different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not that I'm a chameleon or anything. It's just that's a part of my intelligence that helps me communicate and relate to people a little bit better. I would certainly never want to alienate anybody by the way I vocalize words or my intonation or inflection, right? And certain people in certain areas are offended by the way people say words, honestly.
Yeah, they are.
Right?
Yeah.
Like somebody from Boston would not have a good time in Kentucky. They just it just would not work out.
Right.
They wouldn't understand the Kentucky people, and the Kentucky people wouldn't understand them, and it'd just be like, you can get on down the road.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's an interesting situation. Words mean a lot to some people.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And it's just not that serious to me. So I change when I need to change.
Well, a lot of times, that's about good relationship building skills because you can sort of reflect the way your person you're speaking with, so that you get a kind of a rhythm and a familiarity. That's smart.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I'm good at my job. I have 7 states I cover. I cover Montana, Idaho, Oregon, Washington, California, Alaska, and Hawaii.
Wow.
It's all those states are completely different.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
Oregon and Washington are similar, but the coast is vastly different than inland.
Right.
You get the most liberal parts of the country to the most conservative parts on the West Coast. I wouldn't say they're as conservative as other parts of the country, like Texas and Oklahoma, but they're as conservative as you can get in eastern, Washington and Oregon.
Right.
On the West Coast.
Compared to the West Coast, as a whole.
And the people in Alaska are completely different than anywhere else.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Alaskans are just their own thing. And Hawaiians have their own time.
Yeah.
The way they show up to things, the way they do business. I would say, without being on time, Hawaiians they do like to do business like Japanese people. They like to eat. They like to eat around business.
Yeah.
And Japanese people, you really can't conduct business unless you have a meal with people.
Right.
So, and then that's the trust building exercise.
And the Japanese like to bring a gift as well.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how different cultures are like that, even in America, right? Each of the different states has its own culture, and they conduct business differently.
Yeah. In Kentucky, we just make barbecue a little bit differently than everybody else, and we make the best whiskey in the world. We make great baseball bats too.
Oh, that's right. The Sluggers, the Louisville Sluggers,
and the best horses come from Kentucky.
All right, Churchill Downs.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I always growing up in Indiana, Kentucky. You're always around the Kentucky Derby, and you always hear of it and whatnot. I always thought that all the horses were raised around Churchill Downs, and all the farms and stuff are near there.
Yeah, well, they travel.
But they're not near there at all.
No.
They're in Lexington.
The
major horse farms are in Lexington, on the eastern part of the state.
Oh, I didn't know that.
a good bit of ways away,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And California horses have won the Kentucky Derby, and horses from New York have won the Kentucky Derby. You know,
Yeah.
they're all over the place. But the majority of the great Kentucky horses don't come from Louisville; they come from Lexington.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah. I always thought it was Louisville. I'm like, yeah, it's at the racetrack.
Right.
The horses are there.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Right.
Not at all. Like where the racetrack is on the I-65, it's just off there. Coming down from Indiana, you basically go across the Ohio River and across the big bridge, and you know just a few minutes later you see Churchill Downs, and you're like, that place is beautiful. First off, when you see it, it's just
Yeah.
like, you have all these very urban neighborhoods, and then you just have this racetrack, this beautiful, very European, very just ornate architecture.
Yeah, it's striking when
just
it's on
stuff.
TV. Yeah.
And then it's right there, urban neighborhood, and then racetrack.
Really?
And it's like,
I had no idea.
yeah, it's crazy. And you think of Kentucky as being a very rural state, and it is, but you know the biggest event we have there is in a city, and it's a race. It's a horse racing of all things, in the middle of, I wouldn't call it downtown Louisville, but it's real close. 5 minutes.
So maybe Louisville is also the city in the country.
No,
Well, it's a
no.
city and it's surrounded by the country, right?
Very much surrounded by
Yeah.
Louisville's really a different. It's its own animal.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. It's just different.
Mm-hmm.
Like growing up in central Indiana and south central Kentucky, Louisville's even different than Indianapolis. It's a rougher neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
It's
That's where Muhammad Ali is from, right?
yeah. It's a
Yeah.
little bit more strained.
Yeah.
It's just different.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful city.
Mhm.
I'll never say anything bad about it. It's just different.
Right.
It's very different.
Right.
I can't even. It's like I can't even describe. It's like Stockton, kind of.
Interesting.
It's rough like Stockton.
Yeah.
It's beautiful like Hollywood in its eclecticness.
Mm-hmm.
It's just different, man.
Yeah.
It's its own thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like Nashville. People, you know, because it's in the same general area. Lexington is. When I was growing up, I thought Lexington was made of gold. Everything there's so fancy and just ornate and marble and everything. It's way different than Indianapolis, because Indianapolis is very car, macho, manly
Yeah.
stuff. Nashville is very eccentric in the musicality of the people that live there, the creativeness and whatnot. It's more like Memphis than any of the other close things, but it doesn't have the rhythm that Memphis has. Memphis has just this natural beat coming from it, you know, from the blues and from the food and from the people that live there. It's just this different thing. Louisville's just a different animal. Like it's a convention city. There's a lot of national conventions in Louisville all the time because it's central.
Yeah.
It's just different, man. I don't know how to describe it really.
Wow.
It's just this different thing.
Mhm.
It's almost like it's not one city. It's 8 different cities, and it changes, and the people are just different, and it's just cool. It's a cool place. You know, all these different neighborhoods. They're old and new, and you know, I wouldn't say ghetto, but yeah, ghetto.
Right.
You
right,
know,
Right.
and not ghetto, and
Yeah.
you know, you get 8-10 blocks from Churchill Downs, you have what people would call slums. You know, where Muhammad Ali's from.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just that kind of working man mentality, and want to elevate themselves is what Louisville is really. I guess that's the way to describe it. And they're doing that, right?
Are you a basketball fan?
Yes and no. I grew up in the 2 biggest basketball states in the country.
Yeah.
I'm terrible at it. I'm terrible at it. I could play football pretty well in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I was a really good wrestler,
Mm-hmm.
and I probably is the best at baseball of all of them. I actually got drafted by a major league team
Really?
at high school. Yeah,
Good for you.
Never did anything with it, and then got a couple scholarship offers here and there, but ended up joining the Marine Corps instead. You know,
Whatever works for you, man.
I was kind of done with it. You know,
Yeah.
it was too much like a job, and I just
It is. It's
I was
very,
like 5'7", 140 pounds coming out of high school, and it's like nothing's ever gonna happen with that. So let's see what else is going on. My buddy Bob joined the Marine Corps, and he talked me into it. And 14 days after 9/11, I'm at Parris Island, scared
Man.
out of my mind.
wow.
Yeah.
That was a crazy time.
Yeah, I remember I was at a neighbor's house helping them build a fence for their dairy farm the morning it happened, and we're listening to the radio, and everything stops, goes dead for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And they come back on and said the towers were attacked,
Yeah.
and we just stopped. We just kind of buttoned up what we were doing and just stopped and went home and just kind of, for lack of a better term, sulked the rest of the day.
Yeah.
It was awful what happened.
Everyone has their own story. It's like for our parents' age, it's like, where were you when JFK was shot? For us, it's 9/11. My wife and I have an interesting story because we were vacationing in Costa Rica,
Okay.
and we were at the airport ready to come home when it happened. I mean, our bags
that didn't happen.
No, our bags were on the airplane,
Yeah.
and then suddenly everything was canceled. And so we were, stuck in Costa Rica for an extra week.
Yeah.
And then we eventually flew into Mexico City, and then took Aeromexico flights. Like, we stopped like 4 or 5 times between Mexico City and Tijuana, and then we were able to walk across the border.
Yeah.
That's how we got home.
Yeah.
We're crazy.
Awful.
Yeah. So everyone's got a story,
Yeah. I hope this country never gets attacked like that again. Like I pray about that. It's one of the things that I do pray about nationally, right? Like seeing blood on American soil like that, not specifically physically, but just seeing that happen here is awful. And seeing that in any country is awful. War is not a good thing.
No.
It's not a it shouldn't be an economic factor. It shouldn't be good for business. It shouldn't be, I don't think it should be conducted by drones. Those are good for our defense and for intelligence gathering.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they take the pain out of it. And the pain's there to make us not do it that much. It's too easy to target American citizens with drone strikes without trial. It's just too easy, and nothing should be like that.
No. That violates a lot of the principles of what our nation was founded upon.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I have a lot of different issues nationally with leadership, presidents, whatnot, but I'll never forgive President Obama for targeting American citizens without trial.
Yeah.
You can't come back from that.
Right. Well, I mean, it's in the Bill of Rights, that we everyone deserves due process, a trial before your peers, right? A jury of your peers. Yeah. But that, that's Gitmo and a lot of things
That's
where people are prevented from habeas corpus rights. It's a terrible issue.
Yeah.
If we would just go back, again, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, we go back to that and things are good.
Yeah.
Wow.
Again, drug this conversation down a dark path, but
Yeah, it's okay. This is good stuff.
we from darkness comes light all the time. That's the great part about it, and a part of being an American. We have the spirit to always come back from no matter what. We did from 9/11. We did from Pearl Harbor. We did from all kinds of things that happened in the United States. The Marine barracks bombing in 1982 in Lebanon. All kinds of things. We'll never stop being us, and people from Poway will never stop being them. You can, if you're downtown, if you're anywhere in San Diego County, you can almost tell people from Poway like you can Marines out in public. It's just
Right.
We conduct ourselves, I would say, a little bit better,
Yeah.
a little bit more graciously.
Yeah.
We're a little bit more polite than everybody else. That's just Poway. We're always going to be the city in the country, development or not, just way we are.
So let's talk about just a couple of Poway issues. A lot of the candidates have come here. We've kind of touched on it. There's a handful of things I've always asked them about. We talked a little bit about Poway Road Corridor, And it sounds like you're generally supportive of the plan, but just concerned about some of the density.
Yeah. Again, the plan is just exactly just a plan. We don't have to. It sets forth rules. Like there's specific rules in it. It's just a guide. It's not a fast and set plan. It's not. It's not the Bible. It's not set in stone. Just a plan. The city council can choose to agree to a development or not. And I would like to revisit the density allowed in the plan. I would like to revisit the parking allocations in the plan. The outpost specifically has one entrance and exit for 329 underground parking spots.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I don't think that's a lot.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a heavy burden on that one entrance and one exit.
Yeah.
And it's together. It's not in here and out here. It's one entrance / exit for 329 parking spots.
Wow.
I don't think that's a great planned parking space. Just thoughtful things like that. I keep bringing up thoughtful in the development idea here in Poway. We have to step back and think about things, the little details, as much as the overall development of Poway Road. The little details matter, and that's where we're going to run into the issues, the specific details of offsetting from the sidewalk. Right now, they can build a 4-story building on top of the sidewalk. Right next to the sidewalk, they can build a 4-story building.
Like it's like New York City, right?
Yeah. Well, not quite that much. But,
but the buildings go right to the sidewalk. I guess is my point. They go higher than 4 stories, but
that's not the aesthetic that I think Poway deserves. Right? That's not going to look like Poway. The design, it may end up looking different in the end of the outpost, but the new medical facility on Poway Road next to the Salvation Army, I feel like that looks like Poway.
Yeah.
I feel like the library. Excuse me. Sorry. I feel like the library looks like Poway.
Right.
Why couldn't we get a blend of that architecture? I think it fully is within the city council's rights to tell developers that these structures, these developments need to look like Poway.
Right.
And whether that exists today or not, I don't think so. I don't think the specific plan calls out for what things are to look like. I think that should be added. I think that the Development Services Department in Poway should have that, as a burden on their work schedule. All those people are already busy. If we have to add people, that's fine. But they need to enforce the look of Poway. And we have all these sign regulations of Poway. People just can't put up signs willy-nilly and whatnot. I think that's a part of who we are as an identity. There's another part to doing business in Poway, and it's not the operations department's not easy to get along with all the time, and getting construction permits is not easy, and business permits, whatnot. That could be improved. But back to Poway Road, it's I think it really is the burden of the council and the city staff to make sure all of the developments are thoughtful and really look and fit and are usable like the people of Poway need them. Right. Not what the developers need. I keep hearing, developers don't want to build in Poway if we don't let them build density in or this, that, and the other. So to me, on a simple level, that means the people that say that, if we don't allow them a certain density, they think our land's worth nothing? Really? Like, very simply, and break it down economically, right? If I don't let you as a developer, let's say you already own this land, or you're going to buy this land for market value. If I don't let you build houses on it, and in the plan it's either 25 or 35. John Ryan will tell you much easier than I can, right? Because he just knows that because it's what he does for a living. If I don't let you build a specific density, you don't think that land is worth building on? I don't see that. I think all of our land is very valuable.
It is, yeah.
So the idea that density has to be required to build on, to revitalize, I don't think is a good argument. I think it's a false argument. I think it's a misnomer patently. I think it's
wrong.
Well, the developers are, of course, going to try to squeeze every drop out of the turnip, right? And so they're going to try to have maximum density. And if the city, for whatever reason, chose to, limit density at a certain threshold, well, maybe some developers would not want to participate, but there's always going to be others.
And that's the hand of economics.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
That's the invisible hand principle of economics.
Yes, it is.
If you don't use your dollars here, they will be used elsewhere.
That's right.
But that doesn't mean somebody else's dollars won't be used here.
Right.
I don't want to let people squeeze every penny out of Poway. That's not the Poway way.
Right.
It's just not. I've lived here a number of years already, and it doesn't feel like Poway. Like it's not this isn't somewhere where I want to say this the best way. I don't want business people to come into Poway and rape and pillage the people of Poway just for the city's sake of tax revenue.
Yeah, I hear you. I understand that.
Right. That's just the basic way of the way I think of saying that. And if I can't articulate that differently, I'm sorry, but I won't allow that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
We can limit developers, and we can limit the density, and we can still revitalize Poway Road and create a bigger tax base.
Mm-hmm.
There's just, and again, it comes back to thoughtfulness. It's really all it is.
Right.
It's not, and a little bit of work, right? It does come back to thoughtfulness and work. We have to find those developers that are willing to come to Poway, and I don't think it's going to be that hard.
No, there's no shortage of developers that are looking to build.
No, especially right now with the economy the way it is.
And especially in San Diego County, where there's such a demand for more housing, and in a lot of parts of the county, the developers are restricted from building for various reasons, regulation, zoning, whatever. And if there's an opportunity to build, they will bid.
Yeah.
No question.
Yeah. So it's a little bit of work to find the people.
Mm-hmm.
It's a networking thing.
Mm-hmm.
Our economic development team in Poway needs to work a little harder doing that, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Developmental services maybe needs work a little bit harder doing that, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not for a long-term vision of Poway. That's what we need.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's very short-sighted to think that we need to pack 25 or 35 houses per acre on a Poway Road. I think it's very short-sighted.
Mm-hmm.
I think we might benefit from the tax base increase immediately, and eventually overall, over term benefit from it. But I think the burdens associated with that kind of density are not worth the revenue.
It's a double-edged sword in a lot of ways, right? So you think about it from us, the city and the country, trying to maintain that sort of character in the city. High density living doesn't typically match that, right?
Correct.
And by the way, there's another water
Got it.
down there if you like it. So, and at the same time, there is such a shortage of housing,
For sure.
locally, regionally, nationally, and that shortage of housing, that restriction of development, this is economics, has made the prices high, made rents and home prices high. So you think, well, if we build more, can that relieve some of the pressure, to make it more affordable so children of people in Poway can move back to Poway? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of angles to this, and what's the right thing to do? That's
Correct.
the question.
But there are lots of angles, but at the same time, it creates burdens on Poway.
Oh, yeah.
So the infrastructure burden is a major one. We may get more money, but we might have to spend that same money that we get on improving Poway Road constantly, not just the current schedule, the current tempo it has.
Because more sewer, more water, more electrical,
everything.
cable, whatever.
More everything.
Yeah.
Right. So you can't put the horse behind the cart. It's got to be in front of the cart. It has to lead the way, and the city council should be the horse making the thoughtful decisions, not just revenue driven.
Yeah.
There should be context on everything that they decide for Poway Road. The outpost is a good start.
Mm-hmm.
Don't like the parking situation. I don't like the design of the structure.
Mm-hmm.
But that, again, it's relative. It's not that big a deal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want it to look like, the outpost is today, the next structure is completely different tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
The next structure is completely different than that. It's going to be disjointed and not feel the same. And
that's what we have now.
it's going to be the exact same thing we have now, just new.
Yeah.
And that's not really good either. That's not good planning. That's not good management.
Well, I think, they've talked about that, where I think some developers have tried to, build on the bowling alley property, and they presented their designs and plans, and those were rejected, right? So I think the city council is trying. The question is, to what degree are they going to kind of build the boundaries, right?
Yeah, so those boundaries should be built into that specific plan, so the developers can already look at it and be like, oh, yeah, that's what I got to do.
Yeah.
So that part of the approval process is just not a waste of time and money.
Yeah.
There's another efficiency. Right, the city staff doesn't have to look at their design because they already see it. It adheres to the plan and to the code in the plan and the rules in the plan.
Well, it's kind of like an RFP, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. If you're not adhering to the RFP requirements, you're not even considered. You don't waste somebody's time. It's harsh, right? It's a very responding to RFPs is cold.
Yeah.
It's a very not nice situation, but there's no emotions in it. There's no gray area.
Right.
You either adhere to the requirements of the RFP or you don't. You're either considered or not. I don't think the development should be that way, but it makes things easier. But again, the development team, the economic team, and the city council and the staff all have to work together on that and find the developers that are willing to build to our, specific ideas of what Poway looks like and the aesthetic that we want. I don't think that's too much to ask.
No, it's reasonable. I think for a lot of people that are, you think about what city planning is, and urban, or I guess in our case, suburban development planning is, that's what it's about, right? It's kind of, and I think a lot of this comes down to, our city council candidates kind of just sharing what their vision is, right? Because you guys are the ones that are going to kind of paint that picture of what your vision of the city is. And then it's up to voters to, approve this vision or that vision.
Yeah.
And then that manifests itself in that urban plan.
I really like what La Mesa's done with their downtown area. Have you been to like downtown La Mesa, like where there's a farmer's table restaurant down there in like Old Town La Mesa?
No, I haven't.
They've taken what they have, they've improved upon it. Like they've revitalized the buildings, they've attracted new businesses. Specifically that one restaurant that I like. It's kind of a farm to table thing, kind of some people might call it kitschy or like hipster-esque or whatnot, but
right.
They've taken new and old, kind of like even Escondido where the car show is on Grant. Is it Grand?
Yeah, it's Grand.
Yeah. They've taken what's there already, added some new stuff, built some stuff in there, and just revitalize the entire area.
Yeah, I like that. There's a lot of great places to go eat on Grand.
I don't. Poway could be like that if we want to go down that road, but I think we're a little bit more ranch style building than the 3-4 foot or 3 or 4 story buildings that are on Grand.
Right.
I think we're a little bit. I think we need a little bit more offset properties with parking in the property itself on the ground level, away from the road. We need to open it up. Like that would be it would be Grand, but like in Escondido, but more open on top of the road. It would be offset a little bit farther from it.
Right.
That would be my grandiose idea of what the development along Poway Road would be. Like the bowling alley is set back from Poway Road, and if we were to develop that area with a new bowling alley included in the plan for that area, if it was a 2-story building at that, level in Poway, it's down the hill, it's down from the road a little bit. So a 3-story building there might not be a bad idea to include a bowling alley or some other retail space.
Yeah, because of the topography. Yeah.
So, again, just a little bit of thoughtfulness, a little bit of planning, a little bit of working with people and attracting the right spaces. I think the Urge Gastropub group, the guys that do that are fantastic. I think they attract people from far away from where their business is. Where they're located in Rancho Bernardo is not a great place to be.
No.
But people go there because they have good food and good beer.
Yeah, they do.
They have a great selection of food and beer.
They have Racer 5 there, which is like my favorite.
Yeah, Bear Republic's awesome.
Yeah.
But like, if
the company Pub in Poway failed because they didn't have good food.
Mm-hmm.
If people make good food, people will travel for it,
No question.
especially in San Diego.
Well, you're going to La Mesa.
Yeah, I go. Yeah, yeah. And my wife's birthday is next week, and we're gonna go to an Italian restaurant. I can't think if it's downtown, but it's called Maestoso. It's a fairly newer Italian restaurant. I don't eat in Poway because there's not really good food in Poway. Again, there's not the if you look at it from a real estate perspective, like John Ryan would look at it, the people that build restaurants for a living would never choose Poway because we don't have correct densities for it. That goes against what I'm saying for the Poway Road specific plan. But I think that's irrelevant at the same time. I think that's a good data metric for people that build restaurants, and I think it's a good excuse for them not to build certain places. The antithesis of that is if you make fantastic food, no matter where it's at, people are going to travel to it.
They will.
They will. And, it's like the baseball story. If you build it, they will come. And
That's true.
I believe in that. I believe in people.
Yeah.
I believe in, like I said earlier, makers coming back and making the United States a great thing. That makers are also a part of the food industry, and like the farm to table movement in the food industry is fantastic right now. And what better place to be a part of than the city and the country, right? We have a lot of country land. I don't necessarily think we have the farming that Oceanside has or some of the other areas of Fallbrook or whatnot, but we're close to those areas and they can build those kind of restaurants in Poway.
They can,
We're getting a Chick-fil-A instead.
Right.
Really?
Right.
We need another Chick-fil-A?
I'll tell you this. I hear your point, but there is a whole separate group of people that are
love it.
so happy that Chick-fil-A is coming.
And I'm not one of those people.
Okay.
I like me some Chick-fil-A. Look at me. I like food, especially fried chicken.
Yeah.
But it's like we don't need another Mexican restaurant either.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I get it.
It's the drive-through in that part of town is fantastic. I think I was talking to somebody the other night that was really excited about having another drive-through on a little bit further away from the traffic on Poway Road.
Right.
It's not that much farther away from Taco Bell or anything, but it does add another option for people on the go.
Yeah.
It does add a different environment. I like their food.
Yeah.
But I don't believe in the nanny state. I don't think we should dictate to what people eat by not including certain restaurants or anything. I'm not going to say that Chick-fil-A shouldn't be included in Poway because people don't need to eat fried chicken or saturated fats or whatever else. That's not. I don't believe in that. The government shouldn't be in the business of telling people what to do and how they live their lives. But
I agree.
I think we could have been a little bit more creative in that space.
Well, yeah, I think so too. Creative is a great word. We could have been far more creative. This is interesting. You talk about, they have this Taste of Poway. I don't know if they still do that, where they
do.
The restaurants get together and they try to have some promotions around it. There's one restaurant that my wife and I went to about a month ago that we had never been to, and we'd walk past it all the time. It's called La Trattoria, and I think that's the name of it. It's like in the Target Center, like near the Cold Stone Creamery.
Yeah.
That was really good.
It is good.
Yeah.
I like that place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was really surprised by that, and I walked by it a million times. My business mailbox is right there at the Postal Annex. We used to really like to go to Dominic's. Did you ever go there?
Yes, I had a bad experience there, so I don't.
You did?
Yeah, I don't. I had a frozen, rancid piece of lasagna there.
Really?
I went there once and never went back.
Oh man, we've always had great experiences there.
I everybody's always said that. I just had that one experience there, and like to me, there's really no coming back from that. That's your one job.
Yeah.
Is to make a meal for somebody that's paying for it.
Yeah.
And if you fail at that job, I don't really patronize your business again.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There was another Italian restaurant that I never got a chance to go to across the street in the 24. Is it LA Fitness or 24 Hour Fitness? Behind KFC.
Yeah.
There was another Italian restaurant over there that I never had a chance to go to that people said was awesome.
Yeah, we went there once. They would serve like lunches. They were really good and like early dinners. It was Italian.
Yeah, and then Mama Teresa next to Five Guys before they went out of business was amazing.
Really?
she made a fantastic piece of lasagna.
Oh, wow.
It just, I don't think their service might have suffered because Alex, the, husband of the chef that owned the business, they're from Italy.
Oh.
They don't speak fluent English, and some people didn't like that.
Yeah. I can understand that.
And their European way of doing business and serving people is a little bit different. They think that you can wait for meals. People in the United States are very impatient.
They are.
The people that loved Mama Teresa would still love it.
Well, in my opinion, if I go to a restaurant and the people are Italian and struggling to speak English, then I know that's legit Italian.
Yeah, and their food was so good.
And it's you can observe by the people that work there and the people that are eating there.
Yeah.
You can tell if it's a good place or not.
Mm-hmm. But then there's the other people that might see that same thing and think, I don't want to be. Why are you here? Like,
yeah.
You should be speaking perfect English to me. Whatever.
Yeah.
You're not that important.
Yeah.
The self-importance of some people is kind of outrageous to me, but just again, I don't take myself that seriously. So it's there's a time and a place for everything.
There is.
Dictating your own self-importance to other people is just outrageous to me. It's just nobody should behave like that.
Let's change topics a little bit.
Yep.
So let's talk about we touched on it just very briefly when you walked in. Is the recent Poway chieftain in the headline there. And I think your name was mentioned.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
So the chieftain article stems from the meeting this last Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
And that really stems from the meeting on September 18th. We're in October, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Today's the 5th, I think.
Yeah, so after the meeting on September 18th, and I'll tell you the whole story, and that'll be kind of where I want to keep it. But
okay.
After the meeting on September 18th, it wasn't a great meeting. I didn't like the mayor's response to public oral. And it just, for a person in that position to call out people for getting votes or not getting votes, for, his reasons for choosing people or not choosing people for an appointment.
Mm-hmm.
I've not been critical of that process. I've been critical of the people that voted on that process for varying reasons and integrity reasons specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And not even the mayors, just Mr. Grusha specifically. But anyways, after the meeting, I live in the neighborhood. I live, like I said, across the Poway Road and Heritage Hills, and literally just a block away from Poway Road. So I walked over there that day for the meeting, and I proceeded to walk home after the meeting, and then I'm just not in the mood to go in the house, right? When I'm not in a good mood, I don't want to be around my wife. Not that I don't want to be with her or be around her or my son. I just don't want to put that. I don't want to put that burden on them.
Yeah, I understand.
So I walk out towards from the meeting out towards the Brigantine. And I get back to Terrascan, and I'm like, I'm gonna take another lap, see how I feel. So I walk back towards the community park, back towards the sheriff's department, and come back around and just do another full lap of that circle.
Yeah.
Back towards the Brigantine along. I don't even know the name of that road that the city hall's on.
Yeah, I'm not even sure myself.
But anyways, it's the same road that the community center's on, the fire department, all that. So I'm back through there walking again, and when I get to the corner where you could either go across the street to the movie theater or turn left to go back towards Mainstream or whatever, I hear some people talking. And the people that I heard talking were the mayor, Barry Leonard, and Dave Grush.
Mm-hmm.
And from my reading of the Brown Act, that's a violation of me. Just in my interpretation, right? I may not have went to the city's orientation for them to tell me what to believe about the Brown Act. For the people that work for the city council, the city attorney works for the city council, right? He's not my attorney. So he for me to ask him a question on interpretation of a private meeting is kind of, he works for the guys that I thought were breaking the law.
Yeah.
So why would I ask him? That's like if I were suing you, John, and I ask your attorney what he thinks about my case. Why would I do that?
Right.
Am I a dumbass?
Yeah. I understand.
I'm not.
No, you're not.
Right?
No.
So I walked up to them and introduced myself because I'd never met Barry and the mayor before personally. Like
Yeah.
I've seen them in passing.
Yeah.
I tried to I gave them all water during the parade because instead of walking in the parade this year, I handed out water. And when they came by, I gave them all a bottle of water.
Ah, good for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's,
Yeah.
I could have spent the money to be in the parade and waved and look like, this. I just chose to spend that money on water and give it away for free instead.
Nice.
It was hot that day. And
Yeah.
it's just, and I didn't really tell people that I was doing it for any specific reason. It's just, again, I just like to help people.
Yeah.
And if people are enjoying the parade and they need a bottle of water, it was all cold and stuff, and if that made their day a little bit better, I'm thankful for that. But anyways, I walk up to them and I introduce myself, and Dave's joking, and he's like, "Isn't it past curfew for city council candidates?" I'm like, "Dave, I'm 35, man. Like, I don't have a curfew, brother.
Yeah.
I'm an adult. Thanks, appreciate it. Thanks for laughing it off." But they, as soon as I walked up, they're all kind of like, "It's time for me to go home." It may or may not be fishy, but to me, tactically, strategically, if I'm caught doing something, I want to exit a situation as fast as I can and get out of there, right? That's just the tactical mentality that I have. If I'm out on a patrol and I get caught in an ambush, you want to get out of harm's way as fast as possible,
Right.
And that's human instinct. Honestly, it's the fight or flight mentality, and the way that I read the body language is that and it may or may not be true, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do this as a political ploy or anything else. I didn't walk up to these guys for political reasons. I really didn't. I truly thought in my heart that it was a break in trust, right? A true violation of the Brown Act.
Because the Brown Act is, if there is a majority of the council that is meeting in a non-public meeting, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And so were they conducting or were they discussing business?
Don't know.
Or were they just talking about the Padres?
They very well could have been.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But, at the same time, the notes taken from the city's orientation on the Brown Act, people that have shared those notes with me, said that's one of those situations where you just don't do it, right? So interpretation's not left up to
Right.
legal entities.
You don't want to create the appearance of impropriety.
For sure.
Right.
For sure. And that's, again, what I personally thought was what was wrong. So I kind of described it as they all tucked tail and ran, right? And that may or may not be how they observe their actions. But again, me as, who I am, that's how I felt. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to let this go, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was Tuesday the 18th. And on Monday after, I wrote the city a letter. Actually, I wrote an email to the district attorney, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the city attorney works for the city staff and the city council.
Mm-hmm.
If a law is broken and I'm a witness to it, the attorney that works for me and the state is the district attorney to defend that law.
Mm-hmm.
So I referred my findings, firsthand witness account, to the district attorney and waited for what I asked for. It was advisement of what I should do.
Mm-hmm.
So later Monday, and I forget. So the 18th and 7 days later would have been the
25th?
Yeah, the 25th. On Monday the 25th, I wrote them an email, and the assistant district attorney advised the investigator that I was in communications with to have me write a letter to the city.
Okay.
And when the city responds, to pass that response back to the DA. So I wrote a letter to the city and I delivered it on Tuesday the 26th. A day or two later, the city attorney responds back to me and said he finds there to be no violation of the Brown Act. Well, again, an attorney that works for you is never going to find you in violation of any rules.
I understand.
Again, the interpretation of their violation or non-violation on the city's behalf by the city attorney is again like my attorney telling you guys that I'm not a criminal, or President Nixon's attorney telling you guys he's not a liar.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not.
Yeah.
That's not who I want to hear from.
Yeah.
Whether they think they violated it or not.
Right.
So I in turn sent their response to the district attorney's office.
Mm-hmm.
This whole time, this was private between me, the district attorney's office, and the city. This whole time. So this entire evolution, I've not said anything about it on social media, and people can check me on this, whatnot, until October 2nd and the city council meeting. Right?
Mm-hmm.
The morning of October 2nd, there was a gentleman on one of the social media platforms that gave a list of facts that was not a witness to this event,
Mm-hmm.
that was not there, that wasn't... I've never spoken to him about this incident, but I know other people that were there spoke to him and gave him the facts as they saw them, and it's just not the same. They don't...
So it's like preemptive defense.
They don't track. Yeah. So Tuesday, somebody wrote this post on a social media platform, and I responded. That's the only response I've had about this entire evolution.
Right, in a public setting.
In a public setting.
Yeah.
And even then, it wasn't. And like I said earlier, my integrity means a lot to me.
I can tell that.
As a man,
Yeah.
as a Marine, as
Yeah.
a father, as a husband.
Right.
That's just who I am. And I didn't conduct any of this operation, this event, for publicity, for my candidacy.
Mm-hmm.
I did not do that because I knew it would turn into what it's turned into since the council meeting on October 2nd. I'm quoted in that Chieftain article as saying I followed them. I did not follow them. I'm not going to follow anybody. I'm not going to tell anybody how to do their job, John. I'm just not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if there's a job to be done, I'll tell people the job to be done, and if they can't do it, I'll find the people that will do that job.
Mm-hmm.
I do that at work. I do that with my son. I do that at church. You know, it's just, I'm an adult. You're an adult. If there's things to be done, let's do it. And if we don't do it, somebody else has to. We have to find somebody else that has to do that. And I like to lead by example. And that's not an example that I want leading the city, right? Of what I believe to be a break in trust. So meeting comes around Tuesday night, and public oral's finished, and the mayor asked Deputy Mayor John Mullen to speak, and he brings this whole thing up because one of the citizens of Poway talked about it during public oral about the private meeting and their own witness to these events, not my witness to these events, but their own witness. So they were completely different than mine.
Oh, wow.
So these people saw the events happen specifically separate from me.
Really?
Again,
It's kind of coincidence.
I walked around a circle. It may be. But those other people, like, if you stay around the council meetings, there's a certain group of people that like to hang out and just talk.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, that's true.
And that's what was happening. And since this has all happened, they said they were just hanging out talking. They saw the same three guys that I saw get in their cars separately and drive across the street. That's not unfishy to me, even from their perspective. So my perspective is one thing and theirs is different, and it kind of comes to the same conclusion. But it, you know, either way, you think they violated, you think they didn't violate. Like this, even the city attorney said at the orientation meeting, I was told, it's just one of those things you just don't do.
Yeah.
To-
right. Yeah.
Don't leave it up to interpretation.
Right.
So, again, John Mullen calls it out, and he has the city attorney explain what he finds to be a not violation of the Brown Act. Again, how is somebody that's working for them going to explain to anybody that, you know,
Right.
it's just,
Right.
those numbers just don't add up. So, again, I didn't publicize it. I didn't want to make it political. They opened it up after public oral, so I couldn't respond. Right? And then Mr. Leonard, really, I mean, were you there on Tuesday?
No, I wasn't. No.
he really starts to verbally accost me for just being a citizen. Really. Really. That's all I was like. It's our civic duty to uphold our elected officials to a standard.
Yeah. Yeah.
I believe everybody would agree with me.
Yeah.
My interpretation of what they were doing was wrong.
Right.
I did what I was supposed to do as far as my civic duty goes.
Right.
I don't believe I was
Right.
wrong in doing that.
No, not at all.
I'm not going to call what I did whistleblowing, but verbally accosting me for doing what I think is right in front of the council, on the record, on video, on live TV if you were watching that, you can only poke a Marine so far before they start lashing out.
Right.
I am not immune to that. So he brings up the city orientation, and I wasn't there. I was at my son's Cub Scout meeting that night. I'm not going to miss that. Sorry.
Well, no.
Sorry.
Yeah.
City orientation for my candidates here. I'm not missing a family event for that. I'm just not. That's who I am as a man. I just, if stuff comes up, I'll have to work around it and plan around it. But I could have chose to attend that meeting or chose to attend my son's Cub Scout meeting. I can read the Brown Act, John. I can interpret to myself what I think it to be saying.
Right, but
I don't need people to tell me how to think. I don't. I'm an independent thinker, believe it or not.
But you not attending that meeting wasn't the problem.
Exactly.
That's a deflection of what the
problem was. Me turning them in for what I believed to be a Brown Act violation, and they took it personal and politicized it. I had not done that this entire time. I really didn't, and I chose to do that privately, so it didn't get to where it's at today. I have since apologized to the city staff and the council for my outburst at the meeting, because it was unprofessional, and it was unbecoming of a Marine and who I am as a person. I shouldn't have done that. But again, I can only get pushed so far before, and I didn't get violent. I didn't get loud. I mean, I yelled out loud a couple times, but I didn't get angry. I was agitated, right? So he starts talking about this and me not attending the meeting, and you should educate yourself and this, that, and the other. I don't need anybody telling me what I should do. I'm an independent thinker. I can read for myself what things mean. Believe it or not, I'm from Kentucky, but I can read.
Right.
I'm not from the East Coast. I'm not from Massachusetts. I don't like the Patriots. Even though they beat my Colts last night, I still despise them and their cheating ways.
Right.
The Patriots, that is.
Belichick,
yeah. They're always, I mean, no matter what those guys do, they've always cheated, and they'll never get around
They're
that.
spying on practices and deflating balls.
You can't come back from that.
No.
They are cheaters. That's like Sean Merriman using steroids. He will always be looked at as a steroid user.
That's right.
You just don't look past that. Roger Clemens will always be a steroid user.
Yeah.
He may be the greatest pitcher of all time, but he was a steroid user.
That's right.
You can't come back. So anyways, he's sitting up there from these seats, and his protected, by no response of their
Yeah, because public oral was done.
was closed.
Yeah, so you have no way to respond.
Yeah. So again, just the circus act that was Alan Fenstermacher explaining their non-violation of the Brown Act it was laughable, and it was agitating me. And then Mr. Leonard started to say what he was saying, and it's like, no, you don't get to do that. Like, no, if you have a problem with this, talk to me. You have my email address. You have my phone number. I was there standing out front of the council chambers before the meeting started. You could have said anything you wanted to then privately. And I chose to keep this private on purpose, and they wanted to do what they did, and they did it. They did it, right? Whether it harmed me or didn't, I honestly don't care. I really don't. I know what I did was an integrity move. I can go to sleep at night being just fine. Like I said, I apologize to them since then for my actions at the meeting. After public oral was over and that was over, when they went into the consent calendar, I left. I honestly just, I don't want to be a part of an environment where I'm not welcome. And that was that environment. I don't want to go places where people don't want me there. And that was clearly the case that night. They'll say that that's not the intent, but that 100% was the intent of that attack.
Wow.
I have no doubt in my mind that was that. This may be related to who they see me associating with before and after city council meetings, but that's purely just people of a similar age and similar background associating with each other because they like each other.
Yeah.
I hang out with the people I hang out with at the council meetings because we're of a similar age,
Yes.
and we were specifically the one person I'm thinking of is also a veteran. So I'm way more comfortable with veterans than I am with not veterans.
Right.
I mean, I'm comfortable with everybody, but I can actually be John. I can actually be the Marine when I'm around other Navy guys, Air Force guys. You know, I don't have to watch what I say. I can just be, you know,
you can be authentic. You can be real.
I can just be, you know, the asshole that all my friends. I mean, you know, I'm not. All my friends would never say I am, but you know, I can just be that guy that harasses them, and you know, we banter back and forth and everything else. I would never do that with people that I don't know, or even people that aren't Marines, because or military guys, because we do and say stuff that's not of a. Our senses of humor aren't the same.
Yeah. Oh, I think people know that with Marines. I mean, when Marines are amongst Marines, you know, they're contained. You know, they don't let it get out of the boundary. But amongst themselves, you know, they're
fine.
Guys being dudes or dudes being guys.
We're just dudes. Yeah, I'm just a guy, and I'll tell everybody, I'm just a guy that wants to be a part of Poway moving forward. Really, that's part of it. So I think my association with certain people that are, I don't want to call those certain people agitators, but they're not agitators, right? And I think that really got to Mr. Leonard, and I think it still gets to him, and he can't move past that. As a professional, I think he can't. And that's a flaw. That's a deep flaw that shouldn't represent the people of Poway. Mm-hmm. He's not up for election this time.
No, he's not.
But if he can't publicly say he can get past that, he shouldn't be there anymore. Mm. And in my apology, I said I was unprofessional, and I apologize for that. My outbursts won't happen again, and that goes back to my discipline and my integrity. If I say something, I'm going to do it,
right? And
I'll be on time, if not before time,
right?
So, again, that won't happen, and I really feel sad because, you know, it doesn't make me regret writing the letter to the city, talking to the DA. It doesn't make me regret any of that because the truth will, you know, get out, and the truth will happen one way or another. I don't believe what they said to be false after the meeting, right? At the meeting on the 2nd. They said they like each other, they were getting a beer together. All right. Mm-hmm. I don't believe that to be false.
Right.
I also know that when I get together for drinks with my coworkers, we always talk about work.
Oh, yeah. It's a natural. Yeah.
Yeah. So for them to not talk about work is unnatural. Mm-hmm. Right? So I know the human condition and the way people act.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Again, I still think it was a violation of trust for them to get together and to continue to get together. This last meeting, after the verbal accosting, I left during the consent calendar. Mm-hmm. I walked across the street to Mainstream. I sat down and got a glass of whiskey. Mm-hmm. Glass of bourbon.
Right.
I had Bullet Rye that night.
Okay.
I had 3 of them and walked home.
Okay.
When I was there, Tori came from the Senior Center Forum. Mm-hmm. So she went to the Senior Center Forum in lieu of the City Council meeting, and she stuck around there. I was at the Senior Center Forum too until about 6:45, and then I went to the council meeting. Mm-hmm. I wish I stayed there. Much more welcoming environment. Mm-hmm. Even in light of the conditions that they're dealing with there and the things that they're dealing with. So I go to Mainstream, have a glass of whiskey. Stephanie, the waitress, was fantastic. I was sitting on the patio. Tori texted me. She's like, "Where you at? You're not at the meeting." I'm like, "I'm at Mainstream having a glass of whiskey. You want to join me for a drink?" She's like, "Sure." She came over, got a beer. And then John Ryan comes over because he's like, "Where you at? I saw you left." You know, through this whole evolution of the candidacy and running and stuff, John Ryan will be my friend for the rest of the time we both live in Poway.
Right on.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I like John.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah.
Different than me.
Yeah, he's very different, but he's a great guy.
But he's a great guy.
Yeah.
I like Peter.
Yeah.
Right. Peter went to Bowling Green, Kentucky, about 40 miles from where I grew up, to pick his car up.
Calypso.
I'll always be
Yeah.
in contact with Peter to see how he's doing and stuff, no matter what.
That's
right?
super.
We're neighbors. you know.
Yeah. All District 1 guys. Yeah.
Believe it or not, I don't dislike Dave. Right?
Mm-hmm.
His viewpoint on the appointment of not even going to not even wanting the appointment, and then his 3 candidates versus voting to make it a consensus just for consensus is not an integrity move,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's my only issue with Dave, right? That and his no vote on the veterans housing project.
Right.
There's no reason for that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but back to the story. So, Tori, myself, and John Ryan are sitting at the table, and for some reason, Tony Russo and Brian Edmonston walk in too.
Oh my God. It's like the whole ballot is appearing.
And then Chris and Delana Olps come over too.
No,
So
amazing.
We're all sitting at a table outside. Actually, when when Tori and I were at the table by ourselves, John Mullen came outside to talk to us. He just came to say hi.
Wait. Wasn't this during the meeting? This is right after consent calendar?
So after consent calendar, Tori and I were there.
Okay.
After the meeting, everybody else showed up.
Oh, okay. Now
All
I
right.
get
And John shows up and he comes outside to talk to us. And he's like, come inside and have a drink with us. I'm like, I'm going to sit out here.
Yeah.
Especially, in light of what just happened.
Yeah.
I'm not welcome there. You may welcome me there. And I truly believe to be John to be a man of integrity.
Yeah.
He's one of the, I think he'll stand by his word no matter what.
Yeah.
And
I like John.
And in my apology, he was the first person to respond to me, and he I'm not gonna say what he said, but it was good.
Mm-hmm.
And I responded back to him and said, I'm thank you for that. I really appreciate it. I hope to, I actually really hope to be sitting next to you one day, working with you as a peer.
Right on. Yeah.
I like Joe Calabrese,
Mm-hmm.
but I also like John Mullen. I wouldn't choose between the two. I don't have to, so I'm not going to.
Okay.
I would like to sit next to either of those guys. They're both fantastic human beings.
Mm-hmm.
So John comes outside and invites us to the table. I'm like, Tori, please go ahead if you want to do that. I'm going to sit out here and just calm down and cool off.
Right on.
And I stayed out there by myself, and then John Ryan shows up, and then Brian Edmonston, Tony Russo, and Chris and Delana Olps, and Chris and Delana invited some of their friends over that live actually the next street up from me.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, we're all sitting out there having a drink and whatnot. And in the Chieftain, back to that article, it says we followed them over there again.
Oh no.
I'll show you the receipt from my things. Stephanie, the waitress at Mainstream, will tell you.
Yeah.
I was there an hour before all the people showed up.
Right.
I was already 2 drinks deep by the time they got there.
Yeah.
two drinks, two whiskeys with ice, and it's not going to get me anywhere.
Right,
Just not.
right,
I weigh
right,
240 pounds.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I remember this very well. Right. So again, it says that I followed them over there. I'm not following anybody, John. I'm not a ninja.
That's not your style.
I'm not a spy.
No.
It's just I can't hide very well. I wasn't wearing camouflage. I'm pretty bright.
Yeah. Right.
I'm just not going to do that. If they want to keep doing that in light of everything else going on, I wouldn't. But whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it was all of the council minus Caitlin. So it was, the mayor, John Mullen, Dave Grush, and Barry Leonard. All 4 of them sitting at the table again having a drink. Tori went to have a drink with them, so whatever. I didn't follow anybody, right? And to beat it all, at the end of the night, the waitress was saying that the mayor asked her if, hey, should we get we should get a cut of their check because we brought them here. The mayor asked a waitress for a cut of the business profit or her tips or something.
Right.
I don't know specifically what he was alluding to.
Yeah.
But he was like, we should get a cut of their check because we brought them here.
He's joking around.
I know, but still.
Yeah, I know.
That's just, really?
Yeah.
You're going to ask a waitress that?
Yeah.
No, don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not classy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, have a little bit of class.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Whether you think what you think or not, don't say that out loud.
Right.
That's not a good look.
I hear
It's
you.
honestly not. Plus, I was there before them.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. It's like I can't go to a bar.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really? You have to allow me to come here, Mr. Mayor? Like, come on. Get out of here with that. It's just, I don't know, that kind of ends up that story. I went way more rambling and in depth than I would like to, but my story really needs to get out there because the facts in the paper aren't the facts. They're really not. They're spin. Whether Mr. Dreyer wants to say that or not, they just really are. They're a one-sided story. He's never asked me for a quote on any of this stuff. So I really, I'm not lying. I'm not going to lie about this situation. I didn't want to politicize this thing. I didn't want to make this thing a fiasco. I didn't want sparks to fly at the city council meeting. That's not why I'm doing this. I want to be a part of Poway's future is why I'm doing this.
Right.
And, whether they were trying to, harangue my good name or whatever, paint a picture of the way I do things or anything, I don't know. I don't know why they chose the motives or the motives that they have to choose what they did. I don't know, and I can't speak for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can only speak for me,
right,
and my integrity and what I choose to do. So, that being said, what Mr. Fenstermacher said at the meeting about the Brown Act violation being closed, as far as the district attorney, also is false. The district attorney contacted Mr. Fenstermacher after his response to me and said that the district attorney's office is very interested in continuing violations of the Brown Act, and that in a voicemail to me, I can share it with you off the record later, but in a voicemail to me, the investigator said that the district attorney's office put the city of Poway on notice.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And that is a quote from the voicemail that was left to me, and I don't want to put it on the record, but for the city attorney to say that their investigation or their interest in this matter is closed is also false and not true. And I will share that with you later. So,
it's always good to keep elected officials accountable, right?
Yeah, and I expect the same thing of me. I really do.
Right.
If I get this seat November 6th, I really want the same accountability of people that have the good of the city in mind. I really do. Like I said at the forum, nobody wants Poway to fail, and everybody really wants us to succeed. Everybody loves Poway. Everybody running, everybody that speaks at city council meetings. I think everybody that lives in Poway wants Poway to succeed.
Of course. Yeah,
right?
No question.
So that's kind of where I'm at with that subject. I don't really want to talk about it again, honestly.
Well, I think you've said at your piece. You pretty much said it all.
If Mr. Dreyer at the Chieftain, wants to write on that from me, he can watch your podcast.
Okay.
He can watch this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about it again.
Okay.
But I truly think that City Council Member Barry Leonard owes everybody an apology and an explanation as to why he can't get past relationships of people that speak at the city council meetings. I truly think that was his motive and desire to accost me verbally the way he did.
Right.
So, again, if there's another topic we can talk about now, I'm going to continue to talk about this as long as you want to. It's just going to make me madder and madder, and I'll just keep reiterating the same thing.
Then
so
let's switch gears.
Yeah.
Because I was waiting for there to be like a kind of a little
natural
pause, and then we can kind of move on. But you just kept rolling.
I won't stop talking about this.
I know. It's okay.
What I believe my truth to be is what I will always stand behind. Everybody's truth is different.
No, yeah.
Right? Context and perspective individually is insurmountable in some people's minds.
That's right.
So I don't, again, like I said, I don't think that their context and perspective of what they think to be not a violation of the Brown Act, I don't think that they think that's wrong. I think that's wrong, but I don't think that they do.
Right, because they probably figured they weren't talking business, or maybe not official business, maybe kind of,
So the things that, not to keep on that subject, but Barry's appointment, Kalen's appointment, this perceived Brown Act violation, there keeps happening instances along the path that would lend to the idea that truly is a Brown Act violation. Right?
you track where I'm going with this?
In terms of making the decision on the appointments?
Yes.
Okay.
So-
And that there probably were Brown Act violations preceding those appointments?
Probably. Mm-hmm. I will not definitively say yes or no, but
Right.
the tracking from the behavior
Yeah.
makes that fit.
I can't disagree with that. Yeah.
You know?
'Cause-
so
yeah.
why continue to allow that perception to happen?
Right.
Again, even Mr. Finstermacher said at the orientation, just don't do it.
Right.
So
Well, I think that's what they talk about with ethics training is it's one thing to not be ethical, but it's another thing to not create the appearance of
Correct.
unethical.
very much so.
You know, just so that there are no doubts, you know, that people don't jump to wrong conclusions and create a cloud of a mess that's surrounding
And
it.
again, I'm not going to say definitively whether they broke the law or not in any instance, right? It's not for me to.
Right.
I'm not an attorney. I'm not the DA. I'm nobody right now, right? I'm just a citizen of Poway reporting what I saw, and I don't want these guys to. I don't want anything to happen from that. I just don't want them to do it again.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
all I want.
Yeah.
So
It's all good.
There's that.
Yeah, you made your peace, and you're a man of principle. I mean, this goes back to the way you've been raised and your training in the Marines, and you want to solve problems, right? And you're not necessarily wanting to complain about the problem. You want to solve the problem. And to your point, you don't want to be a whistleblower, but you just want it not to happen again.
correct. And the Brown Act prescribes that, right? So the letter I wrote has very specific things in it that I asked of the city. And in my letter, I demanded that they not do this perception or perceived violation again.
Yeah, there you
And
go.
that's it.
And that's all you got to do.
Yeah.
Right.
It's very simple. And to me, like, to blow it out of proportion like it was outrageous
Right.
and very unprofessional. And all he had to do was come to me man to man and say something. And I would have given him the same explanation. It's not personal. It's really not. I'm not attacking you, Barry. I'm just not.
Yeah.
You're not on my radar for attacking.
Right.
Just you're not that important to me, Barry. So
let's switch up gears a little
yeah,
bit.
I can do this all day long.
And we'll use Barry as our pivot point. How's that? Barry's a Red Sox fan.
Oh God.
So what do you say you're a baseball guy? Tell me what you think about the playoffs. Who do
How
you like?
fantastic is it that two 100-win teams are playing each other?
Yeah, that's cool.
That's fantastic.
We're probably missing the game right now.
Yeah,
I don't
we
know.
probably are, whatever. It's still the Red Sox and the Yankees.
Yeah.
We'll see it tomorrow. And for the rest of our lives on national television.
That's right.
So can't get away from that. They were talking about the Mighty tonight. I don't want to specifically talk about that game or that series, but Stephen Woods and Ben
Higgins.
and Darren Smith were all talking about playoffs and what they perceive to be the best playoffs in the world. And Woods is a massive baseball game, specifically a Yankees fan. And he said the baseball playoffs are the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. The best reality television in the world is Major League Baseball.
Right.
It's a gentleman's sport. You have to hit a round ball with a round bat squarely.
Right.
Ted Williams said it. It's the hardest thing in the world to do. We have a road named after Ted Williams.
Yeah, we do. Is that
It's
great?
a big part of San Diego.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't grow up here, Tony Gwynn and Kirby Puckett were my favorite. Kirby's not a Padre, but very much like Tony Gwynn and his approach to the game. Not the greatest athletically gifted player out there, but their approach to the game, their research of the game, their just watching the game, and being a student of the game was very, very similar in my mind. And
their personalities, they're both bigger than life, both those guys.
Yeah, after baseball, Kirby had some issues with.
He did. Yeah, he's like domestic issues, I think. Yeah.
But Tony was just the greatest thing ever, right?
Yeah.
But the baseball playoffs are the best drama on television.
Oh, fantastic.
It's not this beat your head against each other football stuff.
Yeah.
College football, baseball, or NFL. It's not the NBA or soccer where everybody's flopping like a bunch of fish on the deck of a boat.
Right.
It's not hockey. Hockey's fantastic too. Like I don't watch hockey, but I've watched playoff hockey, and that's a violent sport with the nuance of skill, like baseball.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's a very skilled sport.
Yes.
For what it is, with violence and aggression.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is kind of
Well, some
Cool.
people say that Jim Rome says that the NHL playoffs he thinks is the best excitement. But I'm with you. I'm a baseball guy. I love the Major
Yeah.
League playoffs, even though as a Padre fan I'm suffering.
Yeah.
But you gotta love
2020.
these series.
2020. I think 2020 we'll be competing.
They're
contending.
doing the right thing
They
finally. They are.
They are. I'm so excited. I don't know if Andy Green will be around to be a part of it. I hope he is because I think he's a good manager. I thought Bud Black was a good manager, and they just didn't have a team around him. But there's nothing like the Major League Baseball playoffs. The drama, the instances where you can get down to a Game 7 in the World Series with 1 out left and being down runs and being able to win. You know what the Astros did last year, coming from where the Padres were or less, they were worse.
Oh yeah, they had
Like
like
the
3 or
Astros
4 100-loss seasons.
Were a joke in baseball.
Yeah.
And through drafting and player development and taking a guy from the San Diego baseball Padres system, their manager, he was the assistant to the
A.J.
GM.
Hinch, yeah.
They just did it, and like the ability and the parity in baseball for teams to come out of the cellar, like the Braves, right? They were awful last year. And then just make a couple moves and have a couple kids come up and play fantastic baseball.
Well, their rebuilding plan has come along faster than anyone
because
expected.
of Acuna. Just one rookie hitting an amazing amount of home runs a long way is just crazy. Like the Chris Bryant, the kid from San Diego, like he elevated the Cubs to where they were. I don't think they would have won the World Series without Chris Bryant.
Probably not.
He wasn't a major factor of it, but he was a part of that, and just baseball in general, like, is fantastic.
So
watching Nolan Ryan beat up Robin Ventura when I was a kid was the greatest thing ever. Like, why would you charge the mound on that old dude? You know he's going to beat you up.
Yeah, you know it.
Anybody that can throw a baseball that hard can throw their hands that hard.
Well, if you watch the replay of that, Ventura gets hit, and he starts walking to first, and you can tell in his mind he's thinking,
"Nope, don't do that again."
But he's thinking, I can't let this go without challenging him.
Because this old dude just beat me up.
Yeah, and then he went out there and just got, slapped around.
Yeah.
He just got the noogie, right?
Yeah, and he fired his head up.
Were you a Reds fan growing up?
No, I was a Yankees fan growing up.
Ah.
So when I was growing up, the Yankees won. When
This is in the 90s,
say growing up in the 90s, right?
Yeah,
I was born in 82. So in the 90s when they started winning, I was old enough to actually watch baseball and pay attention and keep stats and cards and stuff like that. Coherently pay attention as a youth and a young teenager and stuff. So the winners are always more attractive than the losers. So
yes, they are.
But again, like Tony Gwynn was always my favorite baseball player. Like even living in Indiana and Kentucky,
that's awesome,
without a doubt. Like greatness transcends teams. It really does. Like
that's so awesome.
But the Yankees, like what they were able to do with David Cohn and David Wells and
Bernie Williams, right?
Bernie Williams and
the young Jeter.
Young Jeter.
Yeah.
Young Jeter.
Yeah.
Was amazing. Like they won 125 games one year.
Yeah, that was 98 when they played the Padres, right? See, poor Padres. They ran into a buzzsaw.
They hit the biggest wall.
Scott Service was on that team, and that was good.
They hit the biggest wall that they could have hit of all time. That might be the greatest team that ever played the game.
Well, then, not for the speaking. I joke about the San Diego sports curse. The Padres were in the World Series '98 against the greatest team of all time, potentially. But even in '84, when the Padres went to the World Series, the Tigers were so darn good that year. Yeah. They started the season 35-5.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh.
And
so, who do you like in these playoffs this year? Who are you rooting for? The Yankees, right?
No.
No.
No, I still think that my pick in the AL, which I don't think
is who you think's going to win, or who you're rooting for?
I don't think AL is real baseball, first of all, because they have the DH.
Ah, okay, good. I like that.
If you play baseball, you got to play the field.
Yeah.
David Ortiz is not a good baseball player. He's a good hitter.
Yeah, he is.
So I think the Astros are the team to beat in the AL. Jose Altuve is an amazing athlete.
Unbelievable. That guy.
Justin Verlander being on that team makes him ridiculous.
Yeah.
The Indians are not bad. with a former Padres club,
Uh-huh.
minor league system hand, Corey Kluber. He was Rule 5 from San Diego.
No, wasn't he traded for God, what was that guy's name?
I thought he was Rule 5.
No, he
I
wasn't.
could be wrong.
No.
Okay.
He was traded for this. Made a deal with the Cardinals, and it was a 3-way deal. And then Kluber went to the Indians.
Was it for Luke Gregerson?
No, it wasn't Gregerson. This guy was like a left fielder, and he would hit home runs. We hit like 250, and
It wasn't Jim Edmonds, was it?
no, that was a different trade.
Okay.
That was for for Freeze.
Oh,
We gave
yeah.
a Freeze to get Edmonds, and then Edmonds was
We
awful.
still have a third baseman.
Yeah.
We gave away a shortstop for Will Myers
Yeah,
and a third baseman for Jim Edmonds.
yeah. And Jim Edmonds sucked for the Padres. We released him. He went back to the Cardinals, and he revived his career,
Yeah.
and they went to the World Series.
Yeah.
And then.
But think about that. We'd have Trey Turner and David Freese on the left side of our infield.
Right. Yeah.
We'd have Eric Hosmer because we signed him outright on
Yeah.
the right side of our infield. And we could use whoever we want at second base. It really wouldn't matter. And we'd have the outfield we have. We would be contending right now with
Right.
the pitching we have.
But then, if assuming you had Kluber,
Yeah.
So, yeah, woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Sorry, I hit that.
That's all right.
But I guess the Astros will be my pick in the AL. Since the Padres are out, I really haven't really paid attention. I hate the Dodgers because we're from San Diego. We're Padres fans, so
Right.
that's inherent.
Right. I'm originally from San Francisco, so I really hate the Dodgers.
Jeez.
I like Puig, though. I like watching him play.
So, yeah, Puig was the name of my fantasy baseball team. So, do you watch South Park at all?
I only rarely, but
So
I've always liked it when I have
South
watched
Park had an episode. There was this mythical creature that was invading the town called Man Bear Pig.
it. I've heard about that.
Yeah. So my fantasy baseball team was named Man Bear Puig.
Oh, very good.
So I like the way he plays baseball. I like the way all of the Cubans play baseball.
Yeah. Like
I went to Cespedes, all those guys.
Yeah.
Like even Arismer Despaigne that played for the Padres.
Oh, yeah.
I love the way those guys have a passion for the game and play it like kids.
Yeah.
I went to the World Baseball Classic here in San Diego this last time, and I've never had more fun at a baseball
Did
game.
you go to the USA Dominican game?
Yes,
Yeah, I was
did.
there too.
I've never had more fun at a baseball game.
That was unbelievable.
The environment, the drums, the people bringing musical instruments
Yeah,
into the game,
yeah.
the vuvuzelas, the just atmosphere and environment and noise and
It was
love.
wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
And then Adam
Speechless.
Jones made that catch.
Yes, it was amazing.
And then who else? The other big thing in that game was Stanton's home run to the Western Supply Building. It was like a laser shot.
That was bigger than the All-Star game.
Oh yeah.
By far.
Oh yeah.
By far.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And I was at the All-Star game and the Home Run Derby and the Prospect game. I spent the entire weekend the week at Petco Park and the Convention Center during the All-Star week. The World Baseball Classic outshined everything. It was so far and away the greatest baseball event I've ever been to.
It was wonderful. Yeah.
I can't say enough great things about that. And Petco Park really shines
Oh yeah.
in these
Yeah.
times. Like, it's such a great park.
Oh yeah.
You go to places like Fenway and Wrigley Field, and they're and even Dodger Stadium. They're great halls of baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody will ever dispute those facts. But they're not Petco Park.
No.
They're not even AT&T Park.
No.
The Angels play in a awful stadium.
Yeah.
Like, it's awful.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's awful. To waste Mike Trout in an environment in that stadium is just terrible to me. I think he'll be the first $500 million baseball player. But Petco Park is amazing. It's the San Diego spirit that
yeah.
you feel there. It looks like San Diego. They were very thoughtful in the design of that place and the sandstone that's out there and the water that comes over it when we're not in water restrictions and just the food, the beer, the tri-tip from Cardiff, the oh hey, sorry,
She was growling at you. Is she?
I don't know what she's growling.
What time is it?
I don't know.
It's it's probably getting close to her dinner time.
Oh, what time is it?
It's 5:11.
Oh wow,
Have we been going for 3 hours?
Apparently.
Well, you told me you talk a lot.
I do, but you know, I enjoy this as much as you do.
Yeah.
We'll go longer if you guys want to listen, but just I guess who's in the NL? The Dodgers, the Rockies,
The Brewers and the Braves.
I guess I would have to go for the Brewers. Hey, you hungry?
She's hungry.
I guess the Brewers would be my
Yeah.
pick, right? Because they beat the Cubs, and
Yeah.
Cubs are a good team.
Well, I think I'm in the NL. I'm rooting for the Brewers because they had never won a championship.
Yeah.
You know, and one of our friends here in Poway,
Hold on.
they're from Wisconsin. You know,
Yeah.
the Ackley family. So I always cheer him on when the Brewers do well.
That's cool.
In the AL, I'm rooting for the Astros, and
Yeah.
we have a selfish thing. As my son, he's a pitcher, and his pitching coach here in Poway is Dom Johnson, who's also the pitching coach of a number of major leaguers, including Chris Davinsky, who's one of the relievers for the Astros.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we'll see him sometimes here in
Yeah.
Poway.
Hey.
So I think we may need to wrap this up
Yeah,
because
that's funny.
I got to feed her.
It's such a great environment, though. Like outside of the playoff baseball and just baseball in general. Like
Yeah.
my friend Eric and his wife Mary, their son played for Heath Bell in Little League.
Oh yeah,
And like
yeah,
he doesn't have to do that.
yeah.
But his son was playing, so he's going to coach. And
Yeah.
it's like these kids get to be around a Major League Baseball player.
That's huge.
Even at the lowest level. Like, you know, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Like, away from learning from the guy, that's just awesome as a baseball fan. Like, that's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, very
You
cool.
know, an all-star.
Yeah.
A Major League Baseball all-star. A cool guy.
Yeah.
That played for the Padres is coaching your kid. And
Remember his entry in the All-Star game?
Yeah, when he slid into the
was
mound.
fantastic.
Fantastic. Like, I fanboy about the idea that he's even coaching Little League. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, Phil Nevin lives here in town, and his son was the #1 draft pick and stuff like that. I'm sure Bochy still lives in town in the off season.
Bochy's house is right around the corner here.
Okay.
But the story that I heard is that his son Brett was in the house because Bruce and his wife live in San Francisco now.
Okay.
But then Brian Evanston was talking
He moved
about
to Forest Ranch.
Brett, is in 4S or Del Sur or something. So I don't know who's in the Bochy house now.
Oh.
But they live right on the corner of Stone Canyon and I think it's Brittany Park.
You might want to cut that out.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's public record. You always look those things
Yeah,
up.
that's funny. It's just, you know, David Justice used to live over by Medeiros. You
Yeah,
know, like,
yeah.
just to see these guys out in
Yeah,
town, it's like,
yeah.
that's cool. Like,
Very cool.
As a baseball fan, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
We were at Board and Brew on Del Mar one day, and I see Aaron Rodgers walking down the street, and I'm not really paying attention to the line or whatnot. And
Yeah.
He's just literally just walking down the street because he lives over there.
Yeah.
And there's a guy in front of me. He's, you know, fairly athletic-looking guy, not particularly tall or anything. Just kind of unassuming and innocuous. And he turns around, and it's Drew Brees, and I'm like, where am I at right now? I'm like, what is going on? Like, am I in quarterback heaven right now? Like, what's happening? It's like,
We were just talking yesterday with Kaylin Frank about
Yeah.
Drew Brees. And so her husband's a big Drew Brees fan.
oh
And
really? Did you go to Purdue?
I don't think so.
So shout out to Ethan and Brienne. They both went to Purdue, and
okay.
they're huge Breeze fans. Mm-hmm. Growing up in Indiana, you're either a Bob Knight fan or a Gene Cady fan, and
Oh, yeah.
Purdue basketball is awful. It's the worst thing on the planet. They can't play basketball to save their lives. Sorry. Bob Knight's the greatest basketball coach of all time, outside
Yeah.
of John Wooden.
Yeah.
Maybe not, but IU, the program is better than any other program in the world, except for Kentucky and UCLA. I say this all tongue in cheek, but I was a huge Bob Knight fan. The way his career ended, it was kind of awful. But just coming from West Point and his teaching background in basketball and stuff, you know, he was a coach at West Point and stuff, and that's a different environment completely from the rest of college sports and everything. So Bob Knight was a huge, like, growing up, just watching Bob Knight do things and the discipline that he always had, and Cal Chaney and, you know, the other guys at IU. It was fantastic.
Well, I got to tell you a Bob Knight story. This is a good one. So my wife is, from the Midwest, and her family is in Illinois and Indiana. And we went back to Indiana, to Union City, which is like north and east of Indianapolis, right on the border with Ohio. And her aunt and uncle live there. And on the living room wall, there's a crucifix and a picture of Bob Knight right next to it.
It's a very common occurrence there.
Yes, Jesus, God, and Bob Knight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's and corn.
Yeah. Lots of that.
And corn. Yeah, Indiana's a special place. Like, I don't know that I'll ever live there again. I would like to.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know if the opportunity will ever happen again. Just because I'm a huge fan of the Colts and I like the Pacers and
Yeah.
you know the stuff the Indianapolis 500 and
Mm-hmm.
the NASCAR race there. Like that, I love cars. You know, maybe not as much as Peter Neal loves cars, but I still do.
That's a tall hurdle there.
And to do that in California is just rough. Like you have to have the space. I don't have a 4-car garage like some people.
Yeah.
You know, and it's cars are awesome.
Yeah.
Racing's awesome. We don't really do that in Southern California that much. So there it would kind of be cool to live and have a hobby like that. But again, I want to live here the rest of my life. I don't really plan on leaving anywhere else. Maybe have another house somewhere eventually when I can afford something like that. But, you know, that's all down the road. I'm 35. I want to serve today where I am and for the near future. Nobody's asked me about term limits, which is surprising. I don't think the general consensus is that people want to bring that up right now, specifically the people in office already.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's asked me about, you know, tax revenue increases outside of Poway Road.
Mm-hmm.
Surprisingly, and not to bring this back to talking about my candidacy or anything, but at the senior forum, and I thought this was hilarious. The lady was asking for written down questions, and the first question that comes up, and it was from a senior, and they're talking about revenue. The city talks about revenue. The senior center talks about revenue.
Yeah.
And the lady's like, if the city and the senior center need revenue so bad, why did they ban dispensaries in Poway?
Marijuana dispensaries.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of chuckled to myself. I'm like, well, I understand the point, and she makes a great point.
Mm-hmm.
I understand the reasoning for not having that in Poway and having that element here, and the stuff that comes along with policing that type of business, right? I understand their decisions and why they made the decisions they do. But it does bring up a valid point, right? If we are in need of revenue and we have a business park where people don't live,
right?
Why would that be such a bad idea?
Yeah. I mean,
It's legal.
It's legal.
So why demonize? And I'm not saying that they really are, but by banning it, inherently they are demonizing the business itself.
Well,
we have companies in Poway today that participate in the trade and the research and development of marijuana for medical reasons. We already allow that, and I think we allow in that ban. I think they also allowed for growth or growing or some kind of growing, whether it be for research or medical, in the business park as well. So if we're going to do that, that's going to incur the same types of liabilities as a dispensary would, in my mind. If you have marijuana on site, you're going to have the security risk. You're going to have the policing need. You're going to have everything that comes along with it, whether you're selling it or not there.
Yeah.
So in the business park, away from any residential area in Poway, why would that be such a bad idea?
It's not a bad idea. No.
And that's a very good stream of money.
Well, it goes back to, the invisible hand and economics.
Yeah.
We talk about this and whether you believe in free markets or not, right? But
somebody emailed me the other day, and they're like, what party are you affiliated and why are you affiliated with that party? And simple answer is what they asked for.
Yeah.
And my simple response was, I am currently affiliated with the Republican Party because I believe in a free market-based economy.
right.
And then they followed up with, please respond as to what that means. And,
Right.
The invisible hand theory and anything that goes against socialism
Yeah.
is why I believe, not unregulated business, but specifically regulated business. You can't let businesses and rich people unregulate and do what they want. That's just bad. But we have other laws that cover that, so that free market-based economy, allowing businesses to be wherever they want to be, is really what I would, be in favor for. And in a non-residential area, away from a a long ways away from any school that I know of in the business park.
No, there's nothing around there.
Yeah. So in Scripps Ranch, like further down Scripps Valley Parkway, miles down the road is the closest school. Miles.
Well, I mean, they already have liquor stores.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, marijuana dispensary is really not significantly different than that.
No. And, you know, some people argue that that's safer than drinking.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Well, it is. It is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's statistically proven. I mean, how many people die of alcohol-related deaths? I mean, it's over the top.
One thing that I'll never put my moral code on anybody else.
Live and let live.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I am.
You know, like I have my specific religious beliefs, and I have my specific, you know, ethical beliefs and moral beliefs, and my own moral code, and you know what I believe to be my integrity once again, and I won't break those for anything.
Right.
But I am never the smartest person in the room. If I am the only one coming up with the ideas, we have a problem.
You mentioned that at one of the forums.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
So if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm hanging out with the wrong people.
Yeah.
You know, like I have a friend that believes he must be the smartest person in the room all the time because that's just his, you know, the way he believes about himself.
Yeah.
But like, you're hanging out with the wrong people if that's the case. Like, you're never learning if that's the case. You're not improving. You know, so why is it a bad idea to have a dispensary in the business park?
It's not a bad idea.
And that's.
But what it comes from, I mean, let's be real, is that, you know, there are a lot of conservatives in Poway.
There are.
And I think, you know,
But that's a conservative concept, John.
well, see,
To let business do and be where they want to be is a very conservative concept.
Right. That's economically a conservative one, but then moral conservative, some people would say not.
But that goes again with what I said about never putting my moral code on anybody.
And I'm with you right there.
Like the guy that owns San Diego Harley Davidson, his commercials are like, you know, helmet laws and stuff like that. You remember when he was making those commercials on Channel 4? You know, like if he chooses not to wear a helmet, you know, that's one thing. I don't think that the state should require people to do things like that.
Right.
But they should require them to be donors if they do choose to do things like that.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
In states that don't have helmet laws, I think they should require those people to be donors. Honestly. That's just, you know, economically it makes sense. That's all I'll say.
Right.
That could be construed either way. Like, you know, there could be a market for the donor program or whatever else and revenue stream or whatever. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying
I know what you mean.
If the hospital systems are burdened by people not wearing helmets, then the burden of people needing donors is somewhat alleviated and relieved.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
By those same things.
That's a reasonable idea.
In European countries, when they get licenses or when they register to vote, I can't remember what it is, they have to check they have to check a box to opt out of the donor program.
Right, so default is you're in.
Yes. So when people don't do it, their numbers are substantially higher than the United States. I think it's like 78% in like 90 in some countries donor rate on their driver's license and IDs and stuff like that. Here in the States, it's in the 20s or teens average across the board.
Because you have to opt in.
You have to opt out. So there's a writer and a professor, and he does TED Talks, Dan Ariely. The way I believe in economics personally is based upon his belief in economics, and he talks about this principle. And it's an economic principle. If you have to consciously make a choice to say, I'm not going to be a donor, it's harder than actually saying that you're going to be a donor is hard.
Yes.
But making a conscious choice to opt out of a donor program is even harder. So those people in the familial cultures that are Europe, Sweden, Germany, like Germany may not be a good example, but Sweden, for my primary example, their families are much closer in general, and their culture is much more familial than the United States is at this time.
So what do you mean familial? Like family oriented?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And even like it's different, right? So they hold each other in their families accountable. They'll hold their neighbors accountable.
they're okay with paying insurance, taxes to cover insurance for everybody. That's really what I'm talking about, familial, right? So they're okay with providing for the nation,
Right.
as like a family would. So the people that live in those countries are okay with providing as a family for the nation. We don't like that here. Americans don't want to. We, by and large, liberal or Republican, we don't want to pay any more than we have to.
Right.
We all want to keep our own money, and if I choose to donate to you, that's what I choose to do. I don't want to have to do it.
Right.
Right. So those nations actually are okay with doing that up front, and here we're not. So that's the difference in culture. That's the difference that those people choose to not opt out. It's just like that, and I don't think that their governmental rules, as far as like the nanny state type ideas, car seats, seat belts, helmets, I don't think they're really like that.
They're not.
So
No.
and even in their food stuff, like their food restrictions are much more lax than ours, and
Yeah. Well, those nations largely are economically freer. There's less regulatory burden on business, which goes against why people would jump to the conclusion.
Exactly.
Because they would think, oh, they're socialist or big government. But their socialism is more about redistribution. It's more about the socialized insurance, but not about, their regulatory burden on business is far less than here.
Yeah, but on the other side of that, here in the United States, if somebody chooses not to have insurance, that's on them.
Yeah.
It really is. Now I go back on that, because if you can't afford to have insurance, that's not choosing to not have insurance.
Right.
The things that make insurance outrageously expensive are not solved.
No.
That was my whole problem with the Affordable Care Act in the beginning.
Well, it made it less affordable.
Prices
still went up.
We're making a mandate to have everybody has to have insurance, but we're not fixing the symptoms that are making insurance expensive to begin with.
It's exactly right.
So you're going to the hospital with a flu and a broken leg, that the bone's sticking out of your leg, and they fix the flu. That's what that's like.
Yeah.
The broken leg's still hanging out.
Yeah.
And we didn't fix that.
No, we didn't.
And nobody wants to fix that, because that's hard.
It's a very hard thing to do. Yeah.
Tort reform would be a nice beginning, right? Making sure people can't sue people just because they want to, as a income or whatever else, and just frivolous lawsuits here and there. But people need to be protected from malpractice. I think that's fine.
Right.
Lowering doctors' insurance premiums to protect themselves is another part of that. Tort reform would help that. So once you do the first piece, you lower the doctor's premiums, and that would lower their overhead. Then you organize the care itself, do preventive care, record keeping, billing. The medical billing industry is probably one of the biggest industries in the United States.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
It's an outrageous number.
Well, you look at the number of administrators in a doctor's office. It's silly.
And look here locally at what the CEO of Pomerado Hospital is getting now. $800,000 a year.
Yeah.
I specifically believe that nobody works that hard. Baseball players get an outrageous amount of money because that's what we pay for them to entertain us. Strictly on a labor basis, nobody works $800,000 a year hard. Nobody does it. So a lineman on an electrical line for a company like SDG&E makes about $75 an hour, right? Maybe a little more, a little less here and there. But
those are the guys that go up the poles.
Yeah.
Because they make pretty good money.
That's a hard job.
Yes, it is.
They don't
very risky, too.
They don't make $800,000 a year.
No, they don't.
A logger in northern Washington, Alaska, anywhere in the country makes $15-20 an hour. That's one of the most dangerous jobs in the United States.
Yeah, it's always ranked near the top. Yeah,
and they're providing stuff for our infrastructure that we can't go without.
For $15 to $20 an hour, so that's like $30 to $40 grand a year.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. They don't make $100 grand a year. Nobody physically works enough to make $800 grand a year.
Well, it depends on how you value what a salary is about. Is a salary a reflection of how hard you work, or is a salary a reflection of what your value is to that organization?
What I would say is you start at a certain salary, you show me the efficiency that you can provide, the efficiencies you can solve in the business, and the savings that you can provide across the board while improving service gets you a higher salary faster.
Oh, yeah. Well, that would be the smart way to go, right?
Yeah, that's the way I would think about it.
Yeah,
right?
any smart business owner would do that.
Yeah, so I don't know that these entities that are mandated can really operate that way because of their red tape and whatnot.
No, they can't. No.
So I think they could probably they probably could have hired somebody for $300,000 that will do the same job.
Oh, I'm sure there would have been a line of people willing to do that job. Question is if you would have gotten the best candidates, because where would the one that's making 800, assuming she or he is the best candidate, where would they be? Would they be somewhere else, or would they be taking the job?
It might reset the market.
It could,
right? That's where the invisible hand comes into play in salaries.
Yes, it is.
Like if people are willing to pay that, take it.
Well, yeah.
I'm never going to disparage anybody for being successful.
Of course.
If somebody's willing to give you that amount of money to do what you want to do, and to be happy doing it, take it.
Yeah.
Take it all day.
I
don't think it's responsible as a taxpayer.
Right. Yeah. And then when this is where it gets down to if it's taxpayer funded. But yeah, the hospitals, I've often wondered that. Are they private or are they public? Or I think it's some kind of quasi merge of those two.
People will say all kinds of different things on that subject, I think. I'm not versed enough in hospital administration at all to tell you one way or the other. I can research it.
This is something we need to get together a mainstream over a couple of whiskeys, and we can solve the healthcare crisis in America.
We can do everything. Mitt Romney lives in Coronado, right?
Yeah.
Or La Jolla. We'll call him over.
Yeah, didn't he build the house with the elevators? And it was in La Jolla, I think. Yeah,
he did.
I remember in the 2014 election here in Poway for Poway School District, two of the candidates had Mitt Romney's brother doing robocalls to support the school district candidate. Yeah, isn't that weird?
That is weird.
Yeah, that's something.
I don't know that I'll do any of that stuff. Like this campaign. My campaign has been of me, for me, and by me.
Yeah.
I built my own website.
Yeah.
I did my own materials.
Yeah.
I designed my own sign.
Good.
I did it all. I've not asked for really any help canvassing. I'm ramping that up the next few weeks and whatnot.
Well, absentee ballots are going to be mailed any day now, right?
On the 8th.
Yeah. And so a lot of people make their decisions early.
Yeah.
Especially the ones that are paying attention,
Yeah. There's a couple things that I think I do have going for me for people that are uninformed and really not paying attention, right? I'm first. So the Secretary of State picks our names out of a hat for the order on the ballot.
Oh, so you're number one.
I'm first.
Nice.
My name's Johnny Carson.
Yeah, that's hard to forget.
I'm a Marine veteran.
Yeah.
None of these things make me good or bad or anything.
But they make you unique.
Yeah. So, ceteris paribus, everything being the same. I think those things, put me, in a good position.
Yeah, they do.
We'll see how everything else that I'm doing, works out and whatnot. So, I think it's been fun so far. Like I said, it's been weird. The deeper and deeper I get into things, like this last council meeting was, I don't want to say it was bad. It was just weird. Uncalled for, unprofessional on my part, and most. I'm not gonna say mostly theirs, but definitely theirs. But that's water under the bridge. I apologized. I hope they can get past, like I said, my associations for the sake of the city.
I'm sure I wasn't there, and I don't know what happened, but I'm sure in the whole scheme of things, it's minor compared to the stuff that those guys probably see.
But specifically with the one person, it doesn't seem minor at all. It really doesn't. Like it was
personal.
Yeah. And I don't want to say it's not personal. It's just business. Like it wasn't business for me. Business would mean making it about my campaign. I didn't do that. I didn't want that. I don't want them to look like bad guys. They've gotten the city the last 8 years to where we're at. Mm-hmm. They didn't do a bad job.
No.
Mm-hmm. That's why I didn't want that. I didn't need them to go there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we don't need to go there. We promise not to talk about this anymore.
I know. It just comes back to that.
Yeah, that's emotional for you.
Yeah, I really love, like, I was very thankful for my so I assume my pastor saw the Chiefs dinner, read it online or whatever, and read about it, and he texted me this morning. He said he was praying for me, and
good.
that kind of, even though earlier in our conversation I got a little fired up about it, it put my heart at ease about the whole thing.
Yeah.
With where I'm at in my circle of friends and in my personal circle of my faith leadership and stuff like that, it just put me at ease. Like I am not the person that was shouting at those council meetings, and I'm certainly not what they think I am as far as like trying to point the finger at them and being blameless. I will never cast the first stone at anybody, and from a house with glass floors. It's not where I'm at.
Right.
I'll never personally be there. If I win the lottery, I won't be there. I'll still. I keep telling my wife, like, to win the lottery, you got to play the lottery, and I don't even do that. But if for some reason I ever did and won, like, I'd stay in my same house. I don't need, like, there's 3 of us. Why do I need a gigantic house?
Right.
I just don't.
You don't?
I don't. It's exactly what I need, and I have a view of the Poway, of the valley down, towards. So I look towards Garden Road at my backyard, and I see the entire valley. I go from like the land to the north of Walmart, and I can see City Hall from my house.
Nice. Yeah, you go up in your neighborhood, you go up that hill, you get a great view of the town.
Except if you live where John Ryan lives, you get a view of your neighbor's backyard. But if you live on the on the hillside, you have a fantastic view, especially if you're up Papago going towards the Palisades.
Yeah.
Those people have amazing views.
Yeah, it's beautiful up there.
Yeah. So I just love Poway. It's fantastic.
It's a great city.
I just wish my son would play sports.
Oh.
He no interest.
No.
None. Esports maybe. He wants to play video games all the time.
Okay.
That's fantastic.
But there,
That's so weird that they're calling that sports though.
Yeah. Carlos Asuaje as a team.
He should focus on baseball.
Yeah, he should. You know what? The robotics program at Poway High is fantastic.
It is awesome.
Yeah.
It is awesome.
So
maybe he'll get into wrestling later. Like he does like that with me and his friends and stuff like that. So
okay, well that's another great program. Although the coach Bramstetter is gone, he retired.
That's so. Your son's freshman basketball coach,
Yeah.
Jordan, his little brother wrestled there, and I was talking to him, and Coach Brandstetter was great. He won however many SIF championships, right?
Oh my God,
an amazing amount.
Yeah,
and people like in San Luis Obispo, where Chuck Liddell's from, you know, when I was up there visiting my wife when she was still in college, I would tell guys at gyms when I was still in the Marine Corps then, and I would tell guys at the gyms and whatnot that I'd be at that I live in Poway, and they're like, "Well, that's where Coach Brandstetter lives. That's awesome.
Yeah.
When you have kids, is he going to wrestle there?" I'm like, don't know. Like, I didn't even know it was that great. And, I was sitting at a table with Gan McGee, one of Chuck Liddell's fighters, 7-foot guy.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, yeah, it's the greatest wrestling program in the country.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Yeah.
How do you know about that living up here? Like, everybody knows about that everywhere.
Yeah.
So it was like, it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Poway's cool.
They've got feeder programs that do wrestling.
Yeah.
Like for 6th, 7th, 8th graders.
Yeah.
So your son, well, if he's 9, he's what, like in 3rd grade?
He's in 3rd grade.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Love
who
it.
knows?
He's got a fantastic teacher this year.
Yeah.
Her mom was a teacher at Midland.
Nice.
They've lived,
And he's a Cub Scout, so he's got some good activities.
Yeah.
That keeps him connected in the community.
Yeah, we're going camping.
What's his name?
Jack.
Jack. Oh, you mentioned that. Yeah.
We're going camping the weekend before the election. So
Good.
I think I'm just going to take the weekend off and
Go
let's
off the
camping
grid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to Indian Hills down in Campo area.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, way down there with the Cub Scouts and stuff. So it'll be a good time. I think I'll need to relax before the election, and it's just hanging out with a bunch of people like me, a bunch of families like us.
Right on.
It's just I don't need much. I just need to not be accused of what I didn't do.
Yeah, of course. No one likes to be falsely accused.
Yeah. So.
No. Well, let's wrap this up. I mean,
Cool.
we've been going for 3 hours
Or more now.
Yeah, I think my wife came home from work and fed Nona, so I'm off the hook on that. So.
And people were talking about how long your podcasts were. They're gonna hate this one.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know. We could just make it really long just to spite them.
Let's not do that. My wife's probably texted me angry by now. So.
Yeah, I have my phone turned off. I probably got a few too. So anyways, John R. Carson, right?
Yeah, Russell.
John Russell Carson.
That's my dad's name.
Like a Jack Russell, you know?
Yeah.
So is your son Jack, is he a junior?
He's John Aiden Carson.
Okay.
So he's Jack because the nickname,
Yeah.
the Scottish nickname for John.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So John Carson, District 1 candidate,
Yeah.
Poway City Council. He's number 1 on your ballot.
I am.
You know?
Number 1 in your hearts.
And number 1 in your heart. So I wish you the best of
Thank
success.
you, John. Really appreciate it.
And, it's going to be a great 4.5 week stretch run. So,
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
yeah, good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.